guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Sallow. I'm so glad you guys decided to join me for another season of Vanderpump Rules. Today we're going to be talking about season 4, which is one of the more exciting ones. We get a lot of fun new cast members this season, which I will get into in a second. I'm doing my best to try and get each season out in a timely manner. I am around halfway through the script for season 5, so that video shouldn't take me too long either. I'm really trying to get the seasons out as close together as possible. Hopefully this one doesn't go up too long after season 3. I think I uploaded that video, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago? We'll see. But anyways, I'm not going to bore you guys with the long intro. We're going to get into this because we have a lot to talk about. Normally I do this with the whiteboard, but all of my whiteboard markers have run out and I don't feel like getting other ones. So I'm just going to talk you guys through it. All right, so for the ladies this season, we start off with Sheena, who is 31 years old by season 4, Ariana, who's 32, Kristen, who's 33, Katie, who's 29, and Stassi, who's 26. But Stassi we're going to talk about because she's actually not in a really big chunk of the season. I believe for the first 12 or 14 episodes, she's not in it at all. We will discuss why, but that's when we actually get into the recap. Now for the guys, we have Jax, who is 36 to 37 years old when season 4 happens. We have Sandoval, who's 33, Schwartz, who's also 33, and then we also have James, who we talked about last season, who is an official cast member this season, who is 23 years old. We also have some new cast members this season. We have 2 ladies that are going to come in later, and we'll talk a lot more in depth once they get introduced to the show. But we have Brittany, who's 27 years old, and then we have Lala, who's 26. Season 4 of Vanderpump Rules started its filming summer of 2015. I'm not sure when they finished filming, but the airtime was... The first episode aired on November 2nd, 2015, and then they wrapped up the season on April 11th, 2016. I don't know if that's with the last episode or with the reunions, but regardless, April of 2016 is when they stopped airing season 4. And yeah, that's basically all we need to know about the cast this season. Lisa is also obviously there, but I'm not going to say her age, frankly, because I don't feel like doing the math for that. And yeah, we're going to see where these characters take us this season. All right, so jumping right into episode 1, it's titled Playtime's Over, and we start the season with a staff meeting at SUR, and Lisa explains an incident about a wine glass being thrown at Pump, which is her other restaurant that she opened last season, and apparently the incident was caused by Kristen, so she's no longer allowed to be on the premises of SUR or Pump. If you remember, basically every season after season 1 starts with Sheena's birthday, and she's decided to do a decade-themed party this year, and she's talking to Katie about it, who's now her close friend, because if you remember at the very end of last season, if you watched my last video, they got really close because Katie went on Sheena's bachelorette party, and the whole falling out with Stassi because of that led Katie and Sheena to become a lot more close. We hear Katie talk a little bit about that Stassi incident, saying that the last she heard about Stassi, her and Stassi's boyfriend, Patrick, had actually moved away from each other because they were going through rough times, but she hasn't heard anything else from Stassi at all. Now, also at the end of season 3, Katie had told Schwartz, basically given him an ultimatum about proposing to her, saying that if he doesn't propose to her in the next 6 months, she's done, she's going to break up with him. It has been more than 6 months since the start of filming season 1, and there still is no ring, but Katie says that she is staying patient and trying to do her best with Schwartz. We also get informed that Jax is now on his 3rd nose job. I can't remember the reason why, but who knows. Jax talks to James about how dating Kristen is screwing up James's DJ job at SUR, because remember, Kristen isn't allowed on the premises anymore, and she isn't on good terms with Lisa, but James, who she's dating, has a very important job at SUR and Pump. And James acknowledges, he's like, I'm not willing to jeopardize this job, so I'm just going to have to figure out a way to deal with this. Jax also talks to James about Carmen, who was his girlfriend from last season, and says that he misses her and doesn't like that she's kissing other guys, which he heard from James. Now, because of this conversation, later that night, Kristen ends up calling James and yelling at him because apparently Jax had texted Carmen about the kiss. So basically, James told Jax that his ex-girlfriend was kissing other guys. His ex-girlfriend is also good friends with Kristen, so Kristen got mad at James for spilling the beans to Jax, if that makes any sense. James and Kristen start cussing each other out, they're throwing insults, and now James is really mad at Jax for reacting about this whole thing and getting Kristen all pent up. We get to Sheena talking to Sandoval and Ariana about her birthday party and says that James is DJing the party, but Kristen is not invited. Now, Sandoval in interviews mentions that unless you ban Kristen from an event, even if you don't invite her or if you uninvite her and even tell her she's not going to come, she's probably still just going to show up. Kristen has this really fun thing where she likes to crash parties. Like, she just doesn't care. She's just going to come. So, yeah. That night at SUR, when everybody's working, Kristen actually shows up to SUR in person. She doesn't go in the building, but she does go in like the back parking lot and starts a giant argument with James right before he's supposed to go on and DJ. So he tells her to go away and stop putting his job at risk, which is fair, I think. Like, you're not allowed on the premises. Like, stop coming to my job just to start an argument with me. I don't know. Jax's mom actually ended up coming over for her birthday weekend to spend time with her son, and she kind of gets informed on how Jax has been behaving in LA, and she tells him to slow it down with the girls, and that love will come to him when he just takes a break from it. So she's actually a really sweet woman. She was really nice. And I think this is really good advice that Jax needs to take. Will he? I don't think that man is capable of slowing down when it comes to women, so I don't know. We go to the apartment that Kristen and James are currently living at together, and James apologizes for his side of the argument the night before because Kristen's still mad about it. But he says that he doesn't want Sheena's party to be the same as last year, so he makes it clear that if Kristen wants to come to Sheena's birthday party, it can't go to shit. She can't cause any trouble. Just be chill. We actually get a really cute scene next up, which is a dinner scene between Jax, Sheena's mom, and Lisa. It's kind of a weird group together, but I guess moms, it all works, you know. And at the dinner, Jax says that he's actually talking to a girl named Brittany from Kentucky and says that he may be trying to settle down with her, and she seems like a really sweet, wholesome Southern girl. Then... They then proceed to just swap bad stories of Jax from his childhood. Like, his mom starts saying a bunch of embarrassing stuff, and Lisa's eating it up and then just saying a bunch of bad stories about Jax from SUR, which is funny, but whatever. Later in the episode, we get what I think I'm going to start calling Schwartz's, like, commitment scenes. That sounds really weird. But it's basically where he goes and does some like random thing to try and show that he's capable of commitment, but it's kind of stupid and redundant. And this episode, he goes and gets a perm. He goes and gets a perm, and while talking to Sandoval, who's with him about it, he says that he's finally ready and wanting to propose to Katie. Emphasis on the wanting to part, because I feel like a big thing with this whole conversation of like Katie and like he has 6 months to propose to me is the fact that like I feel like you should want your man to want to propose to you, not like for him to feel like he has to do it out of obligation. And Schwartz says he's ready to do that, apparently. So, woohoo! The birthday party for Sheena has finally arrived, and everybody is dressed to the nines. Again, it's a decade party, so people are dressed in like greaser costumes. People are dressed with like fun little like workout costumes from the 80s, like those neon leotards or whatever. Now, Kristen does show up, and she actually shows up separately from James, even though she wasn't invited, and she's also not in costume. So her and Lisa, who's also at this birthday party, are the only people who aren't dressed up, so they stick out like a sore thumb. I don't know why she didn't dress up. Throughout this party, it's not like super prominent, but we do kind of see Shay, who is Sheena's husband now, kind of just in the background. Like, people start looking for him, and Sheena is like, where's my husband? And he's kind of just like wandering around the background. This isn't super important, but I did think it was kind of foreshadowing some stuff that we're going to see later on in the season, so I just wanted to point that out. Now, at the party, Kristen is trying to monitor James is drinking. I don't know if you guys recall from last season, he does have a bit of a drinking problem. I don't know if I would consider it a drinking problem yet. He gets really crazy when he drinks. He gets very aggressive, very mean, very ecstatic. So she's really trying to keep him grounded. It doesn't really work. James just kind of tells her to screw off, and so she does, but then she runs into Lisa, and Lisa tries talking to Kristen about the whole wine situation that happened at Pump, which is what we started the season off with, and Kristen doesn't take accountability for anything, and Lisa tells her to just stop coming around James's work because she's gonna get him in trouble. Jax's mom is also at this birthday party with Sheena. Oh, yeah, because it's also, so Sheena's birthday and Jax's mom's birthday are kind of happening at the same time, so they, like, cut a cake for both of them. It's actually really cute. But Jax's mom says that he has great friends in LA, and Jax says that he's super grateful for them, which is one of the few wholesome moments we get from this man. I'm going to take what I can get. Sheena talks to Kristen at this party and says that she kind of has a soft spot for her, which I find really crazy considering Sheena is Ariana's best friend. And when Ariana and Sandoval talk about Kristen, Ariana says that Sheena's being kind of a fake friend to her because if Ariana isn't a good enough reason to not be friends with Kristen, then what is, which I think is fair. I would expect if what went down between Ariana and Kristen went down between me and my friends, I would expect my friends to have my back. I would also expect Kristen's friends to have her back. I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying I value loyalty in friendships, and I think Ariana does too, but Sheena kind of doesn't see that a lot of the time. By the end of the party, they're all kind of drinking around the fireplace, and James starts going nuts. That man is literally chugging like drinks straight from the bottle, and I'm not talking about coolers or wine. I'm talking about this man is literally pouring like scotch or like straight tequila down his throat, like chugging it. And he gets super crazy, and Kristen is really embarrassed about the whole thing, so she just kind of doesn't really want to interact with him. James then starts saying that Kristen drives him to drink because he gets insecure and worried. And then we basically end the episode with Kristen wanting like nothing to do with it. She leaves by herself, and we see James flirting with one of Sheena's friends named Jenna around the fireplace. And that's where we end the episode. All right, so episode 2 is titled New Blood, and we start off with getting introduced to a couple new employees that Lisa has hired for SUR. The first one is named Lala. She's a new hostess at SUR. She's 26 years old. And the second one is a new server called Faith. Now, Lala is very young. She's really pretty, and she kind of gets immediately embraced by the boys. She's a bit of a flirt. And yeah, we don't really know much about her yet, but I promise we are going to get to know her a little bit more. Now, at SUR, we actually see Sheena, who starts talking about how really annoyed she was at how wasted James got at her birthday. And apparently, James went home in an Uber with Jenna, Sheena's friend, aka the one he was flirting with last season. And according to James, the Uber dropped him off at his house, and then the Uber went straight to Jenna's house right after to drop her off. So that's James's story of what happened, but according to Kristen and her FBI detective skills, she actually went through James's email and saw a receipt from James's house to Jenna's house for an Uber at 6 in the morning. So, yeah, it's not really looking good for James in terms of that story. Now, Sheena talks to Katie about this whole situation, and apparently Kristen was being really rude to her over text, and she was really mad at Sheena because this is another one of Sheena's friends that has screwed her boyfriend, if you remember the whole Ariana thing. Yeah, it's not really a nice pattern for Kristen, and she's starting to see it, so she's really pissed at Sheena about it. Although it's not her fault. Yeah, okay, if Jenna knew, if that did happen and Jenna knew that Kristen and James were together, then screw her, she can go fuck herself. But at the end of the day, it's your boyfriend, and what does that have to do with Sheena? I don't know. We see a quick manager meeting with Lisa and Lala, the new hostess, and she says that she has a modeling job in Italy over the weekend, so she's going to need it off. And Lisa gives it to her. She's like, okay, I understand that you guys have jobs outside of the restaurant. Just make sure that this doesn't become a consistent thing. And Lala's like, absolutely, I promise you I will. And this seems really redundant and irrelevant, but I promise you it's going to come up later. Do you remember that Kentucky girl that Jax was dating, Brittany? Yeah, he brought her to LA. So she comes to LA, and Jax actually brings her in for an interview with Lisa to see if she can get a job. Now, this is really weird because she doesn't come in with a resume. She comes in non-interview attire, and I only say that because Lisa's the one who pointed it out. She's like, this girl is literally wearing she's wearing I don't know how to describe it. It's not a bodysuit. It's like overalls, like a one piece, but it's pretty short. I don't like that. You don't wear that to an interview. But anyways, while Brittany is in this interview, Jax is in the other room flirting with Lala, which is so on par for him, but it's also so disgusting. Your girlfriend's in the other room. Ew. Ugh. We cut to James and Kristen actually going to a restaurant brunch thing to kind of see each other because they haven't seen each other since the night before. And Kristen basically starts saying you were so embarrassing at that party. It was disgusting. Your behavior sucks when you're drinking, la la la. And then she asked him about the Uber because remember, James doesn't know that Kristen saw the receipt, right? So James says the story that we've all heard before, that he got dropped off at his place and Jenna went straight home, and Kristen catches him in the lie, talking about the Uber receipt and the whole thing.
So Jenna didn't come over and you didn't Uber her home at 6 a.m.? No.
You don't want to see the Uber receipt from your email? People like to call me paranoid, crazy, because I check my boyfriend's email, but I find something every single time.
How?
Do you want me to show it to you?
Oh, God damn it.
Literally, I'm pretty sure every single boyfriend that girl has ever had has cheated on her. Granted, she has too. So I think that because of both of those things, she has a bit of trust issues when it comes to relationships. And if your boyfriend already has a history of doing that and is erratic in his behavior, yeah, I'd look through it too. And you know what? If you find something every time, how are you not going to justify that? Also, it's smart. You know what? I'm not going to dog on her for this. Do I think that Kristen is just a nutso person in general? Yeah, but it's not because of her, like, going through her boyfriend's phones. No. We've all been there. Okay? It's because that girl acts erratically in public, and she drinks to the point where I don't know how her liver survives sometimes. So that doesn't make someone crazy. I'm not saying drinking makes someone crazy. I'm just saying the combination of those two things and the fact that she's aware of that behavior and doesn't care is why I don't like her. But good for her. Go use those detective skills. Now, she ends it with James. They break up, and she basically, like, he knows he was caught in the lie, so he's kind of like, yeah, I get it, like, whatever. And then she just leaves him at the bar. Now, later on in the episode, the Sir gang goes out to drinks, and they all talk about, like, with Jax, how they really can't take his relationship with Brittany seriously. Now, Lala and Faith end up joining them for drinks, the new employees at Sir, and when talking about Brittany, Jack says that he likes being with someone who doesn't really know a lot about his past and, like, his craziness and stuff like that, because Brittany's in, like, the girl lives in Kentucky. She's not from LA, you know? Now, Lala then goes on to talk about the modeling job she has in Italy, and Katie kind of suggests, she's like, I don't really trust what Lala has to say about this modeling job, but keeps it to herself for now. We then cut to, I think this is the next day, James goes over to Kristen's apartment to try and explain to her a little bit more about what happened that night, and he admits that he lied about, like, the timing of it, but he swears to Kristen's face, he's like, I promise you, I didn't sleep with her, I didn't cheat on you, la 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 la, right? Says this to her, and then we get such a gross scene. We cut to him in interviews, literally this, like, the producers knew what they were doing, because he says this to Kristen's face and then goes to interviews and literally in the most joking, nonchalant, like, genuinely not caring at all about Kristen's feelings is like, haha, yeah, no, we were totally boning. Ew. Like, ew. Like, okay, yeah, so he admits to us that he cheated on Kristen, but to Kristen's face, he's like, no, I never slept with her, la la la. And then she takes him back. And they get back together because he was willing to tell her the truth. Which, can I just, no, he wasn't. Like, yeah, sure, she doesn't know that he fully cheated on her, but she does know that he lied about the timing and was going to stand by that lie if she didn't catch the receipts. Like, girl, what are you doing? Stop staying with these men. Stop. Guys, stop. This is so depressing. Now, in a more lighthearted scene, we see Ariana and Tom Sandoval go couch shopping to get rid of the whole Kristen couch, you know, the one that her and Jax, like, canoodled on. And they talk about how, you know, Sheena being friends with Kristen is still really bothering them, and how Sheena has really minimal requirements for friends, and how it's basically like, as long as you haven't screwed her over in the past 2 months, it's fine. And they really don't like that, which I think is valid, you know? I don't know why Sheena's friends with Kristen, to be honest, but that's going to become a theme between Sheena and Ariana throughout the season. At Sir, Jax talks to Lisa a little bit more about what's going on with the job with Brittany, and Lisa makes it clear, she's like, first of all, I haven't even gotten a resume from this girl, and second of all, I don't know if you guys are going to last, because Brittany doesn't live in LA. The girl moved from Kentucky to be with Jax after less than a year. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, Lisa, like, she doesn't know how long Brittany's going to stay, because she doesn't know how long their relationship is going to last. You can't hire someone with that kind of uncertainty. So she's like, we'll see how long this whole thing goes, and then we'll talk about a job. We see as well at Sir, Katie and Sheena start talking about Lala's Italy modeling job, and they really don't believe her. They think she's going to Italy for a free trip because some older men are paying for it, and she might be doing some things in payment of that. And they go to her and low-key grill Lala about it. Now, Lala admits, she's like, okay, yeah, I'm not going for a modeling job. I'm going for a free trip, but I'm not opening my legs for anyone. Like, yeah, we're going to be pretty. We're going to hang with guys who are paying for the trip, but I swear I'm not sleeping with anyone. They really don't believe her, and they're also pissed at her for lying for Lisa because she did say she was leaving for a job. So it creates some tension, and it basically like creates a whole image of Lala in their heads. Lala's Instagram picture is also like a nude picture of her, not like a weird like crude one. I think it's classy for a nude picture, but like they get this whole idea of Lala in their heads, and they're gonna run with it. Trust me. The last scene of the episode is Kristen going over to Sheena's house, and Sheena confronts Kristen for the rude text that Kristen sent her about like her friend being like sleeping with another one of her boyfriends. And I don't like Kristen for sending that to Sheena, but I also don't like the fact that Sheena literally blames Kristen for James cheating on her, saying that like you left him while he was drunk. What did you expect him to do? I'm sorry. Am I supposed to babysit my man? No. He can do what he wants. If somebody, like, okay, for me, if my man wants to go cheat on me, he can do that. He's not gonna come back to me. Like, I'm not gonna take him back, but like, he has free will. I'm not gonna control him because why would I waste my energy doing that? So I really don't like how Sheena said that to her. But Sheena basically says, like, Kristen, you're the problem most of the time. And because of all the issues you have with so many of everybody around you, it's very hard to be friends with you. And that's where we end the episode. Episode 3 is titled Pretty Little Lies, and it starts off with Lisa actually bringing Katie and Sheena shopping for new uniforms or looking through everything and seeing, what kind of new styles they can get. And she calls them out for their passive-aggressive behavior towards Lala and tells them to cut it out and that it's none of their business, to which I agree because, frankly, why do you care what she's doing in her free time? Like, Lala is working at SUR, and Lisa goes to talk to her about lying about the modeling job. Lala does apologize, but she said she didn't even end up going. She just stayed with her mom because she felt really bad about the unwarranted things that Katie and Sheena were saying about her. Lisa explains to her that this usually happens when there's a new girl at SUR, that there's always an odd one out, but the odd one out usually is the one who gets her support the most, so she'll be okay. We also see Sheena breaking down at SUR to Katie, talking about how Shay got really drunk with his friends and has gotten really depressed and is staying with his parents because he's not happy and he hasn't been home in a long time, which is the first we have ever heard about Sheena having any kind of problems in her marriage or in her relationship with Shay at all since we first met her in season 1. So it kind of really shocks everybody. We get a quick cutaway of Schwartz doing some more modeling jobs, and he says that he is booking more gigs because he really wants to be able to afford that ring for Katie, which I think is really sweet of him, and we see that he's kind of moving closer and closer towards a proposal. Now, there's this whole boot camp going on at SUR for, like, the servers to kind of retrain their service skills, and everyone's just kind of being coached. And while everybody is there learning, Lisa goes and talks to Katie and Sheena again about the whole Lala situation. Sheena breaks down crying. She's like, I really can't hear about Lala's whines and complaints. I have a ton of stuff going on in my personal life, and I'll deal with it after I fix my marriage. Which, I don't know if that gives you an excuse to be super bitchy to someone you don't even know, but okay. At Sandoval's apartment, Schwartz and him are actually moving out the Jack's couch and giving it to the new server, Faith. And while they're doing that, they talk about how Shay has been drinking a lot and they want to talk to him and check in and see that everything's okay. We go back to SUR and we see Jax and Lala talking about how bitchy the girls can be to someone new. And Jax very openly starts flirting with Lala, and when she asks about Kentucky Girl, he straight up says that Brittany isn't his girlfriend, which is a lie. She is. So he's being Jax again, which is really annoying to look at. We get a lot more of a lighthearted scene with Sheena, Schwartz, and Sandoval going ring shopping, and Sheena's mostly there to make sure that the ring is actually to Katie's liking, which I love. I am of the full belief that if you are going to propose to someone, you need to ask the closest people in her life, friends mostly, because sometimes, a lot of the times, like, moms don't really know, like, what kind of ring she wants, what kind of cut she wants, gold or silver. Oh my god. Like, make sure you know what kind of metal she likes. Like, if someone were to propose to me with a freaking pear cut ring, I'm not judging you if you like pear cuts. It's just not my style. If somebody were to do that, I think I would cry. I actually think I would cry. That's like, you have to wear it for the rest of your life. Like, I don't like pear cuts. So, good job. Okay. Personally, I'm a little bit eccentric when it comes to like weddings and engagements and that whole thing. I love it. My friends they know what kind of ring cut I want, and if they don't, then even the second I start getting serious with someone, I'm sending them all the Pinterest photos to give to them eventually. They end up finding the perfect ring for $7,000, which is pricey. I would be so scared if someone gave me a ring. Like, I would lose it. I'm so like, oh. But Anyways, Sheena also starts talking to the boys about Shay because they kind of ask and see how he's doing. And she says that she really hasn't talked to him in 4 days, like at all. And he's been drinking way too much, so now it's affecting his mood. We cut to Sir and we get a little snippet of Lala and James, kind of, getting to know each other, becoming friends. They're the same age, like they're around the same age. They're both in their 20s. They're on the younger side of the cast, so it makes sense that they would kind of like be friends and interact. And they start talking about how bitchy the girls are, and James says that he has her back and like whatever the girls say, don't worry, like you can come to me. So yeah, they're now friends. And we finally end the episode out with a scene between Lisa and Sheena. And Sheena really goes into what's been going on with Shay. And we learn that he has addiction issues, not just with alcohol, but also with some hard drugs. She says that he started mixing pills and alcohol around Christmas, which is crazy. Not only because of like your heart and the stuff that it causes, like physically, but also it's a double depressant and it's been affecting him a ton. And yeah, it becomes very clear that, and these aren't light drugs either. They're pills. So yeah, that's why she's been a mess. And that's where we end the episode. Episode 4 is titled Happily Never After, and we start with Sheena doing some pictures for Katie's new blog called Pucker and Pout. I love that name. At her apartment, and she's kind of really still sad about Shay because he still hasn't been home. At Sir, we see Jax still flirting with Lala, and Lisa catches him and tells him to back off, like stop sleeping with my employees, please. And Jax literally then proceeds to tell her that Brittany's coming back to LA tomorrow and she needs a job, which I don't know why Lisa would do that. Like, well, we just finished talking about how Lisa's not going to give you a job if she doesn't think that the relationship is going to last. And here you are flirting with Lala. Like, what are you doing? So all of the boys, including James, go out, and the Toms start talking about maybe starting a business, getting into, like, some stuff. Not that they have a name for themselves. They want to see if they can branch out into the business realm of things, which is interesting. James then starts talking about how him and Kristen are thinking of going to therapy. But then he gets wasted. He gets wasted and starts calling Lala a slut and saying all these disgusting things about women. And it's really gross. And then the next morning, we see James hungover as hell in Kristen's apartment. And they go to therapy together while he's hungover. And James says to the therapist that he gets really affected by people she's slept with, like Sandoval and Jax, and that he doesn't really like being around them. First of all, y'all haven't even been together that long, and you're already going to couples therapy. Nothing against couples therapy. I feel like I have to defend myself every 2 seconds. This makes sense. I have nothing against couples therapy, but they've been on and off for not that long. Like, it's been, a year? I don't know, man. I don't like it. And apparently the therapist agrees, because she makes it very clear that all they're doing in their relationship is just hurting each other. Now, the Toms, their girlfriends, Peter, which is the manager at Sir, and his new girlfriend go to dinner. And Peter's new girlfriend apparently has a 4-year-old kid, which then sparks the whole wedding and kids conversation between them. We find out that Ariana actually never wants to get married and doesn't really want kids. And Katie says she's more than ready. In fact, she is begging for a ring. The Toms start talking about how increasingly concerned they are about Shay and how they really want to help him out. And they decide to take this to Lisa's house because they want to know if they can get into business with her and see if they can get Shay a job at Pump. But Lisa says no because she says that he needs to get sober and working at a bar isn't conducive to that at all. And then they let that go and start talking more about the business side of things and saying they want to get into like a drinks business with Pandora and Jason. And Lisa tells them to broaden their horizon and get more serious because they're thinking really small right now. So she's not totally opposed to it, but she also thinks they really need a business plan. We go to Sheena's place, and again, Shay hasn't been home in a really long time, so they decide to get their friends over there to mediate the conversation between Sheena and Shay, because Shay feels like sometimes when he brings up problems, Sheena kind of talks over him and kind of dominates the whole situation. So he really wants someone there to keep the conversation grounded so they can really get through to each other. So yeah, the Toms are there, and I believe Ariana is also there. Shay comes home after a while, and they start talking, and Sandoval assures him that he has a really strong support system and asks him about the pills. And Shay says that the most he's ever taken are 10 pills in a day, and by pills he means Vicodin. which like that's a big deal. So clearly it's very serious. Sheena starts breaking down and crying, and she goes off and starts questioning Shay, asking why he married her. And the boys really are like, hold on, like give him a minute to explain himself and kind of get through to you. And Shay says, I'm glad the boys are there, because anytime he tries to open up to Sheena, she takes over the conversation. So the others try to get them to kind of communicate better. I think this was a really good idea, because sometimes you do need a third party to tell you like what the other person is trying to say in a more clear manner, because when it's just the two of you, sometimes it gets so heated that you just can't see it. Shay tells Sheena how he really doesn't want to go back to the guy he used to be, and then Sheena proceeds to insists that he finds a happy medium between drinking too much and too little, because it hasn't been made clear that he's an alcoholic at this point. He hasn't said anything. We know that he has an addiction to pills, but the consensus that Sheena has in her head right now is that the problem is the pills. The drinking just makes it worse, but she doesn't equate that to alcoholism. So she says that he needs to not drink too much, but she makes it very clear that she doesn't want him to be sober, because apparently, according to her, she could never be with someone who's completely sober. And Sheena says that in order to kind of regulate all of this, she's going to be drug testing him to make sure that he's not taking anything, right? Now, later on, we see Sheena go and discuss this strategy with Lisa, and insists that Shay doesn't need rehab. It's not that bad. And Lisa kind of tries to get through to her and says, you need to not sweep this issue under the rug. He may very well need rehab, and you cannot be the one taking care of him, but Sheena just doesn't want to hear it, so that's where we end the episode. Right, episode 5 is titled Cock of the Walk, and we start off with Lisa and Sheena talking about Shay, and Sheena says that he's been hitting the gym more, and everyone's been checking on him, and Sandoval's actually going to go over there later today to teach them how to make a healthy breakfast so Shay can just be healthier and get into habits that are better for him and his health. Jackson starts talking about the relationship with Lisa after Sheena leaves, and says that Shay tries to live up to Sheena's impossible standards and he's miserable, and he says such a mean thing. He was like, what did he say? He said something about like how the marriage has like a super short shelf life, and Lisa basically tells him to cut it out and stay out of it because it's none of his business, and I think so too. Jax is not the one to talk about relationships, okay? Now, at a party, James and Lala had both been there, and apparently James and Lala made out with each other. Lala thinking that Kristen and James had broken up, but of course we know that they haven't. Lala has heard about Kristen, but hasn't officially met her and knows she can be kind of scrappy, but she's like, it's none of my business. I'm going to stay out of it. I'm not going to say anything to anyone, which I don't know how I'd feel about that, but okay. That night at SUR, while everybody's working, Kristen shows up and unknowingly asks Lala to go fetch James for her and to tell him to go to the back to talk to her. Now, she does this. She's like, I'm not going to tell her anything, but she grabs James and brings him out back. Apparently, Kristen had a modeling job in Detroit that she had gone to and stayed out till very late in the morning drinking, or very early in the morning, I guess, drinking. And she hadn't texted James back, so he is now under the impression that she cheated on him, which is hilarious considering he just cheated on her. Lala is, of course, freaking out because Kristen's in the building, so she goes and tells Sandoval and Jax about the whole making out thing, and saying, like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. And they start freaking her out even more by telling her how aggressive Kristen can be when it comes to this kind of stuff. Now, out back, James and Kristen just start screaming at each other. They're done now, so yeah, I guess that's it for now. And the next morning, we see Ariana and Sandoval go over to Sheena and Shay's, teach them how to make a really healthy breakfast, and it's a really wholesome moment. Super organic, very LA, you know, the whole 9 yards. We also see at SUR, while everybody's setting up for the day, Jax talking to Lisa about the fraternization rule, aka why Brittany wasn't hired, and she just keeps on saying you're bitter because James is coming in and stealing your thunder, and I know you want to sleep with Lala, but you have a girlfriend, 1, and 2, Lala doesn't want to sleep with you. Stop sleeping with my coworker, like stop sleeping with my employees, like don't do that. So she just calls him bitter, basically. Kristen and her friend Rachel end up going out for lunch to talk about the whole James breakup situation, and Kristen says that she found out that James had a date the day after, which she knows, like, in order to have a date for the next day, it would have had to have been scheduled before they broke up, which I think it's similar. Like, if you meet someone and then you're like, oh, we should go out. Are you free tomorrow? Oh yeah, you're free tomorrow. It could be possible that it wasn't, but knowing James, it probably was. And yeah, so she's just really upset because she's like, he totally cheated on me. He's been cheating on me. And then Jax ends up seeing them outside, and Jax tries to make her feel better by saying, because Jax didn't know what Kristen was upset about. And he thought she was upset about the whole making out thing with Lala. So he mentions it to her, and she's like, don't worry, they just made out. They didn't sleep together. He thought she knew. Maybe. Who knows? It's Jax. Maybe he was just trying to be messy. She didn't know. So now she's even more pissed off. We see Sandoval, Jax, and Peter go to this barbershop to get Peter's ponytail cut off, and he asks about the Kristen and James breakup. Jax says that he, Katie, Sheena, Kristen, and James and Lala are all going out to drinks, which is obviously going to be a clusterfuck. Now we also see Katie, Ariana, and Sheena go to get their nails done, and they talk about Kristen, who's been blowing up all of their phones, I think to ask about the whole Lala situation. Sheena also brings up Shay, and kind of, it's very clear to everyone that she's trying to sweep this under the rug and make it go away as soon as possible. And apparently she told Shay, like, if you ever take a pill again, I'm going to file for divorce. And she thinks that he's going to want to make her happy no matter what, so he's just not going to do it, which isn't really how addiction works, but she's trying her best to deal with it, I guess. That night, the gang go out for drinks, and Sheena starts to grill Lala about the whole her and James situation. And then Kristen actually shows up, which makes Lala really confused because she thought that none of them liked Kristen. Now, as soon as Kristen does show up, James gets very loud, very eccentric. He's been drinking, so he's starting to get really rude. Kristen and Lala start talking about the whole situation, and Kristen actually informs Lala not only of the fact that they were still together when this whole thing went down, like when he planned the date, when they were making out, and he's been lying to her, but also last episode when James had gone out to drink with the boys and he got really rowdy, he started calling Lala a slut. So Kristen tells her, like, he's been shit-talking you behind your back this entire time. Lala gets really pissed off about this. They both decide to ditch James. James gets really mad at this. He's also been drinking, so he calls Lala a basic bitch, and all of the girls go off on him because he's just being disrespectful and rude. Kristen starts hammering in on James, and we end the episode with Jax saying that when Kristen starts going off on someone who's not you, it's really amazing to watch and entertaining, and that's where we end the episode. Episode 6 is titled Love Bites, and it's actually one of my favorite of the season because it's Pride. It's officially Pride. We do a big Pride episode every season. So we start off with Lisa talking to Sandoval and Jax at SUR about planning the big party, and they're excited because anytime there's like a big party or event going on at SUR, it means really good tips for them, especially as bartenders. Now, Sheena goes and talks to Jax about Brittany and Lala, and Jax says that he's kind of with Brittany, but he also just wants to sleep with Lala. Nobody's really sure what exactly Brittany is to Jax, according to Jax, so it's all just kind of up in the air right now. Sheena also mentions how she thinks that Shay is doing a lot better, so she's going to bring him to the Pride party. In interviews, she says that she can never be with someone who's completely sober, but she needs him to be able to drink without getting wasted. Which, of course, that's not how sobriety works. That's not how alcoholism works or any kind of addiction at all, ever, but she's insistent, so that's what we're doing. We cut to James's apartment where Lala goes over and they make some music together because Lala can sing and James is, of course, a DJ and he also, I think, produces some music as well. And she says that she doesn't hold grudges, so she's good with James. And then they kiss. Not gonna lie, it was actually really hot to watch. But it's they're both young and good looking, so like, I guess, but whatever. Lala makes it clear that she can't be exclusive with James and she doesn't want to know. Like, you're free to sleep with whoever you want, but I don't want to know, so don't be like bragging it in my face or anything. And he's like, okay, deal. We see the Toms and Shay go to a studio to do this dance workout thing, which is kind of really difficult, and they try to get Shay into better shape, just kind of keep his mind healthy. And while doing this, Schwartz mentioned that he's really excited for the proposal, and the ring is apparently coming next week. And they ask Shay how he's doing, and he says that the drinking was never as bad as it was with the pills, but he just wants to get his life back to normal and be happy with Sheena. Sheena's also finally changing her legal name, which is really exciting. She's changing it to Sheena Shay. One thing that Shay did mention, though, that he still has some concerns about is the fact that Sheena's kind of always running the show in the marriage, and now she has kind of even more ammo to do that because she can hold his addiction over his head. I think they need couples therapy. I think couples therapy could be really good for them specifically since they're married and they do have real issues that kind of aren't either party's fault. that they need to work through. I don't know. I just kind of feel really bad. It's a tough situation. So the next day is the pride party, and Lisa goes into Pump and is kind of freaking out because of the decorations and stuff. But then when James comes in to do sound checks for his whole DJ booth, he has scratch marks all over him, like all over his arms, all over his back. And apparently they're sex wounds. Maybe he's a masochist in bed. I don't know. But yeah, he's scratch marks everywhere. And then Ken, who's Lisa's husband, kind of scary, but you know, he's always super cute. I love it when he's on screen because him and Lisa are just adorable. He adores that woman. But he goes up to James and gets the inside scoop and finds out that Lauren, who's another hostess at SUR, gave him those marks, right? So the pride party starts and it goes crazy and it's super busy, and then Lala finally goes up to Jax and asks him about the girlfriend because there's a rumor that him and Brittany broke up. Jax kind of gives her a really unclear answer. He's like, yeah, but no, you know, classic Jax answer, whatever. She just takes it as it is and is like, okay, I guess then, whatever. I guess you're single. Now, she goes back to stand at the host stand with Lauren, who's literally, like, standing right next to Lala. And then James comes to SUR, and he kisses Lala hello, but he has the scratch and bite marks all on display. So Lala asks him, like, what the hell is that? And he's honest and says that he slept with someone else, and Lala does, in fact, get annoyed because she's like, dude, I don't care, but I don't want to know. Like, this is actually pissing me off. The other girls start grilling James about the mark, but he's keeping really quiet. He doesn't say anything. And then Lauren literally goes up to Lala because Lala's really upset at this. She gets really annoyed. She goes up to Lala and said, girl, you're only annoyed because you're drunk. Like, you really don't want to know who it is. Like, you don't need to know. And, like, is insistent that Lala just let it go and move on. And then hugs Lala. Literally hugs Lala as if she's not the one who gave James those marks. James is standing outside with all of the people who are still talking about the marks, and Lauren, like, the camera cuts to Lauren and you see her standing in the corner, clearly very nervous that he's gonna talk and say something. Lala, everybody's drunk at this point, I should say. Yeah, they're working, but that never matters at SUR. So Lala goes up to James and starts yelling at him, and then Jack swoops in and asks if she's going to Sandoval's later, and she says yes, and James starts calling Jax a vulture because he, like, took Lala away and started flirting with her, like, right in front of Jack, because he literally, like, when I say he swoops in, I mean he gets in the middle of him, and Lala starts going off on James, and he, like, kind of gets more resigned and asks, like, what he can do to fix this. So she starts asking, like, who this is, who did you sleep with? He finally breaks and is honest with her and tells her it was Lauren, aka the girl that she was just with. And when I say Lauren literally runs away, like, she runs away because Lala's pissed off. So Lala goes to confront her. Little did we know that Lauren has a boyfriend. Lauren is with another bartender called Anthony. So she cheated on him. And then Lala goes up to Anthony and is like, are you aware that Lauren is the one who gave James those scratch marks? And then he confronts her, and then the cameras, like, try to get in to see what's going on, and he, like, they both just block the cameras because she doesn't want it on air. Obviously, that's embarrassing. You just got outed for cheating on your boyfriend, who seems like a really nice guy and is really hot. And like, ugh, like, that's a really bad look. And so they literally, like, shut the doors, and Anthony's also like, get the cameras away, like, I don't want to talk about this on air. And then Jax swoops in again to connect with Lala right after the whole thing, and she agrees to go back with him to Sandoval's place to the after party, and that's where we end that episode. It was a fun one. Episode 7 is titled Spit Take, and we start the episode with a leader of a charity organization for homeless people going to Lisa and Ken to tell them kind of what she works with, how she works with homeless teens, and how almost all of these teenagers have never been to a restaurant. So Lisa agrees to host a big event for them for free so they can dine at SUR and get the whole restaurant experience. At Schwartz's apartment, him and Sandoval talk about the sangria pitch that they're gonna give to Pandora and Jason, who are Lisa's Pandora's Lisa's daughter and Jason's her husband, and they kind of run some of the business for Lisa, and they're the ones who Sandoval and Schwartz want to pitch their whole drinks business to. The problem with this is that they're being really flaky about this whole situation and not taking this seriously. Like, their business plan is kind of really stupid and they really suck at committing. And Katie knows it's bullshit and that it's not going to go well. At Sir, Lala and Jax talk about how they didn't do anything after Pride. They just went to Sandoval's place and chilled. But Jax is telling her to stay away from James, who's been texting her nonstop. We also find out that Brittany is coming back to LA, but until she's here, Jax considers them not officially together, so he's gonna go out and have drinks with Lala. That's so fucking annoying. Like, why are you being a dick? She's literally moving, or she's driving her ass from Kentucky to LA to be with you. But no, you guys aren't, like, she's just road tripping across the country for me. But since she's not technically here, we're not together, so I'm going to go out with another girl. You're an asshole. James goes to lunch with his mom, who used to be a model and is friends with Lisa and is the one who asked Lisa to get James a job as a busser at Sir. And they start talking about Kristen. James starts crying to his mom because his parents are apparently getting divorced, and it's been a really rough time for him, and he's having a hard time dealing with it. And he's been drinking to cope, which he tells his mom, and his mom gets really scared about this because alcoholism runs in his family, with her included. After this scene, we cut to Jax and Kristen, who have this weird friendship, allyship. They're friends. They're good friends, actually. And they go boxing, and they talk about their individual love lives, and Kristen says that she heard Brittany broke up with Jax, and he says that he's still figuring it out. Nobody knows what's going on with them. Lisa calls a staff meeting for everyone to talk about the event that she's doing, the charity dinner she's doing, and they're all really excited to give back to the community, and to give this to these kids. And James is a little bit down, but he doesn't tell anyone what's going on with his parents, so people don't really understand why he's being really depressy. Lisa talks to Sandoval about his pitch, which is happening the next day, and she is guessing that they are not going to be prepared at all. Spoiler alert, she was right. We see Katie and Sheena talk about how Sheena and Shay are going to therapy, which I think is really good for them, and how Sheena is starting to soften up on Lala and is starting to like her a little bit more. James and Jax start talking, and Jax mentions the boxing class that he took with Kristen a little bit before, and James starts mentioning that he doesn't like he doesn't like Kristen hanging around Jax, which I think is stupid. You have no hold over her. You guys are broken up. But they start fighting about, like, Jax and Kristen's weird friendship. I don't know. James then goes over to Kristen's apartment, and they start fighting because he goes over to pick up his stuff, and they start fighting instantly about Lala and Jax. And it gets really intense, and he gets so disgustingly rude to her, and he's not even drinking. Again, drinking is never an excuse to be verbally or any kind of abusive to anybody, but he's literally acting so disgusting. In his words to Kristen, he says, "You smell bad, like you suck as a person," and then he spits on her fucking door. Ew! The next day, it's time for the Toms to pitch their sangria business to Pandora and Jason, and as expected, they're not prepared at all. It's a complete disaster because they have absolutely no plan, and their plan was to literally go in there and just start bullshitting, like just talking. And they end up backtracking on what they said last time and getting on board the business for free. Like, they end up just selling their labor for free. Brittany's back at Jax's apartment. It's a really quick scene, but he does tell her about the drinks he had with Lala, and he's honest with her about that. So at least he didn't hide it, you know? Now it's finally time for the charity dinner. Sandoval also gets this idea to make drinks for the kids as they walk in, which was apparently Ariana's idea in the first place, and Lisa agrees with her. Like, it was so, God, this is so annoying because I see this so much in my own life, in my career, especially as a history major, where you will literally say something, an opinion, come up with an idea, and then a man will be like, "No, you're wrong." Even though, like, I know what I'm talking about, and Ariana knows what she's talking about. They're like, "No, you're wrong." And then someone will come up and start talking about whatever subject you're talking about. Like, Lisa comes up to Sandoval and Ariana to ask about, like, what kind of ideas they have. And then he says exactly what Ariana just said. Like, "Oh, we should have drinks." And she's like, "Oh my God, what a good idea." Fucking mansplainers, they'll kill me, I swear. The charity dinner actually goes really well, and the kids have a ton of fun. It actually made me really sad because I am someone who loves to go out to eat. I swear half of my, like, spending budget is just, like, eating out. It's not on clothes, it's not on anything. I am an eater. And seeing these kids never have experienced anything like that, never have experienced service like that. I work at a restaurant. Like, it's just so it was really sweet and wholesome, but also really devastating to see the reality of what some people don't have in life. And it's also really sobering to a lot of the servers. Like, a lot of them get really emotional and they're really proud of themselves for being able to give this experience to these kids. Now, while the charity dinner is happening, we see some side conversations happening really quietly in the background. Ariana is not whatever age I told you at the beginning. She's 30. She's turning 30 years old. My bad. But basically, a side conversation that's happening during the charity dinner is Ariana and Sandoval talking about her 30th birthday party. Now, right after they finish talking about this, Peter comes up and talks to Tom about his own birthday trip, saying that he wants all of the guys to go to Vegas. And Ariana is not here for it. She gets really pissed off, especially because they're planning on leaving the day after her birthday party. Now, another side conversation we get that wasn't as chill is James and Jax, who start fighting very loudly about Kristen, and they can be heard in, like, the dining room. Like, the kids who are here for the charity dinner can hear them screaming. So Lisa is like, oh, absolutely not. She goes back to them and tells them to shut up. She breaks them up and then sends James home. Because why are you guys fighting at a charity dinner for these kids? Really? Like, really? Oh my god, I would have taken them out back, and I would have gone off. But that's where we end the episode. So episode 8 is called Dirty 30, and we continue off right as the dinner ends, and Ariana goes and tells the girls about Peter's supposed boy trip, which Katie said absolutely not, because Tom lost all of his boys trip privileges last year when he cheated on her on one of those boys trips, which I think is very fair. What do you mean you're going on a boys trip to Vegas? Have you lost your damn mind? Jax and Peter tell Lisa about this boys trip, and she already knows it's a bad idea, not only for what might go down at that boys trip, but also the drama that would come back from it. She's like, I would never, ever, ever let my husband do that, so I don't know what you think your girls are gonna let you do. We cut to Sandoval and Ariana at their apartment talking about her party, and Ariana says she's really not super happy about the boys trip, and at Katie's apartment, she says the same thing to Schwartz. There's a bit of fluff that happens in the episode, but it's not that important, so I'm just going to cut right to Ariana's birthday party, which is actually kids-themed. She has a bouncy castle. She has, like, face paint. They're wearing, like, little unicorn tutus, which I think is a really cute idea for a 30th birthday party. Of course, it's kids-themed, but they're all wasted, which I think is hilarious. Now, at this party, Peter tells Sandoval a little bit more details about the boys' trip and talk about how they are going to be playing with bulldozers. And so Sandoval's like, oh my god, bulldozers. Wow, I need to go. Pretty much everybody's at this birthday party except for Lala. So Katie goes to talk to Peter's girlfriend, who has the kid, and she says that she really doesn't like the idea of the boys' trip either. Nobody likes the idea of the boys' trip. And the boys basically have this idea in their head that if they make this party super fun and if they give these girls such a nice day, they're not going to be as upset about the fact that they've all basically decided they're going to Vegas and they don't care what the girls think about it. Schwartz then goes and informs Katie that he's going to Vegas, and she cries. She breaks down crying, and she's like, I'm always the one who bends. Why do you have to go? Really, you cheated on me last time. This doesn't make me feel good at all, but you know what? Whatever, it's your choice. Katie then tells Ariana that Schwartz is going on the boys' trip, and Ariana is not having it because turns out there's a lot deeper of a reason on why she doesn't want Tom to go on this trip. It's not just because, like, it's her birthday weekend, but it's because her dad actually died only 2 years before, and she wants Sandoval's support because, like, not having her dad there for her birthday is, like, a really big deal to her, and she really feels the loss of her father around this time, so she just wants to be taken care of through that weekend. Now, basically at the end of the party, Sandoval goes and sits Ariana down to talk about Vegas, but before he can talk about that, she lets him know her real feelings about her dad and how she needs him there, and she gets really emotional and starts crying, and it's really sad, and he tells her, like, I'm always gonna be here for you, I love you, all of this stuff, and then this dumb fuck goes and says that, like, I love you, but I just found out that there are going to be bulldozers there, so I have to go. Are you shitting me? I hate men sometimes. Like, that makes me want to cry right now. Like, that's so disappointing. Ariana, like, literally, she gets so and she's like, okay, whatever. Fucking go on your boys' trip. Whatever. And so the next day they do. They head off to Vegas, and at Sir, Faith and Lala, and Katie and Ariana go and talk to Lisa. And Lisa says, like, I cannot believe you let the boys go to Vegas. And so the girls all decide, you know what, they can go on their boys trip. We're all going to have a girls' night at Sheena's. In Vegas, I will admit, the boys have a really fun time. They go to the bulldozer place, and they do have to get breathalyzed before then, and Jax panics, thinking that he might still have alcohol in his system, but he passes, and they go and play with the bulldozers or whatever. Later that night, the boys get absolutely shit-faced, and they start putting their butts on everything and sending pictures to the girls. And the girls are feeling a little bit better about this trip because they've decided that they're going to have a big pajama party that night. Now, at Sir, James is kind of really pissed off because he couldn't go to Vegas because Jax is going, and since they're not on good terms, Peter's not going to bring him. Lisa talks to Ariana a little bit about the pain she's feeling about her dad, and Lisa says that's completely normal. You have every right to feel upset, and it makes Ariana feel a little bit better. That night, we see the girls go over to Sheena's to play some sexy question game. I think it's like, what is it? Card game? What is it? Something humanity? Cards Against Humanity, but like sexy version, I guess. But anyways, Sheena decides to invite Lala over because Lala, again, wasn't invited to Ariana's birthday, and she was kind of upset about that. Apparently, she has a history of bullying and being excluded by girls, so I brought back some memories. But she decides to invite Lala over, and Lala accepts, and she's actually really excited about getting invited to hang with the girls. Now, in Vegas, the boys go out clubbing, and they get wasted. It's really bad, but they do get some surprises because they get sent some videos of the girls making out with each other. And when I say making out with each other, I mean everybody is making out with everybody, which, you know what? Go have fun. As long as, obviously, I am, okay. I'm trying my best not to get in trouble with you guys. I am someone who thinks that cheating is cheating. I don't care who it's with. I don't care what gender. I don't care anything about anything. But if the boys don't care, then who cares? I would care. If my man made out with another man, I don't care if it's a man. I'm still going to be irked about it. I might not care as much if it was with a girl, especially if he is straight. But yeah, so I don't know. But the boys don't care. They just kind of get jealous a little bit, but they don't really take it too seriously. And in Ariana's fabulous words, she says, the boys aren't making out with any girls, but no one said that we can't. It's one of those double standards that I'm actually willing to exploit. And you know what? I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to give it to them. And they send all the videos to the boys. Now, the last scene of the episode is the boys going back to the hotel room, and they are dead. But they make it through the night without being jackasses and cheating, which I feel like is very much bare minimum. But then the last thing we get is them leaving the hotel room, I think at literally like 1 a.m, to have one last hurrah. Who knows what they'll get up to? And that's where we end the episode. All right, episode 9 is called What Happened in Vegas, and we start off right where we left off. The boys wake up in Vegas, and they are extraordinarily hungover to the point where I can feel their pain through the screen. Turns out what they did after they left the hotel room at like 1 a.m. was get tattoos on their asses for their girlfriend, which is as hilarious as it is stupid. Schwartz actually ended up getting a really cute one called Bubba, just written like cursive little Bubba, which is his pet name for Katie, so I think that's adorable. But Sandoval got this really disgusting red A, like fiery red A for Ariana. He knows it's bad, and he's really embarrassed to show it to her. Now, the boys decided it would be a good idea to book this trip so that, like, they would have to go straight to their shifts at Sir upon coming back, and they're late, obviously. But they show up on time. They show up for their shifts, not on time. And they show Lisa their tattoos, and she thinks it's fucking stupid. But she's like, go show the girls. Like, they need to see this. And then they decide to do it in, like, this super cheeky, annoying way. They, like, bring the girls out back, and they're like, we have something to tell you. Of course, Katie is freaking out. She's like, oh my god, this man cheated on me again. And Ariana's like, I actually have no idea what the fuck this man did. And then they show them the tattoos. Katie thought it was hilarious. She laughed at it, and she actually thought it's super cute and classy. Ariana hates it. Ariana, she's like, it looks like you have fucking bacon on your ass. So yeah, not a fan. The next day at Sir, Jax talks to Sheena and Katie about Vegas, and the girls are surprised that he was super well behaved. But then he starts talking about wanting to do a joint birthday party with Sandoval. However, he also talks about wanting to invite Kristen, because him and Kristen are really good friends, but Kristen and Sandoval are not on good terms, so who knows how that's gonna go down. We see that Sandoval's mom actually comes to town, and she's a super cool woman. She's this really badass firefighter. The next day, Kristen comes into SUR, and all the animosity between her and Katie has kind of dissolved, so they manage to have a conversation out back. And Kristen says she wants to make amends with everybody, just to kind of clear the air in general, but also to be able to go on this trip. And especially with Ariana. So Katie tells her, Ariana's inside right now, why don't you go try apologizing and see what happens? So that's exactly what she does, but it does not go well. She tries apologizing to Ariana, and Ariana's like, listen, I don't really give a shit about you. Like, you can apologize to me, sure, but I don't care. I just want you to stay away from me. I think this is valid, because yes, Ariana and Sandoval screwed Kristen over really badly, but Kristen also screwed Tom over really badly, and both of their feelings are valid. But I also think that Ariana is valid in being like, I'm not gonna shit talk you, or like, I'm not gonna like go out of my way to make your life a living hell like you did me for a year. I just want you away from me. I think that's fine. Apparently, Sandoval's mom is also on the same page, because Ariana goes back to the apartment to tell them all about it, and Sandoval's mom is like, yeah, no, don't, like, hold your ground, girl. We see Schwartz do a photo shoot, and Katie's there to kind of support him at work, and they bring up Kristen and how she might be going on the birthday trip, and Katie says that she kind of feels like Ariana and Sandoval are pulling a Stassi, where they're isolating themselves because they hate one person. Again, I have always said that I think that Stassi was valid in doing that, so I obviously think that Ariana and Sandoval are as well. A bunch of the SUR staff go to this comedy journal reading where Ariana gets up and reads an entry from her old diary. It's actually really funny. It goes really well. But while they're there, Jax starts flirting with Lala, and James sees this, swoops right in, starts making out with Lala right in front of Jax, and then Jax then invites Lala out to lunch, and then James, in retaliation of that, brings up Brittany and how she's coming to LA this week. It's this weird, territorial back and forth over their claim for Lala, but it's not really about Lala. It's such a like, oh, I'm the alpha male type energy that it just kills me. Katie, Schwartz, and Jax go over to Sandoval's apartment to talk about the birthday trip, and Sandoval says no James, which they all agree on, but then Jax brings up how he wants to invite Kristen, which starts a huge argument, and Sandoval and Ariana both make it very clear that she's a liability, and they're the only ones who can decide when to forgive her. Nobody else can just tell them to do that. Katie says they're overreacting, and it starts a huge argument between them, and that's where we end episode 9. Episode 10 is called No Strings Attached, and we start with a really wholesome scene of Schwartz going over to Lisa's place, originally to talk a little bit more about the sangria business, but mostly to show her the engagement ring that he plans on using to propose to Katie, and Lisa absolutely loves it. It's a gorgeous ring. I don't know if it's a pear cut. I think it's a teardrop cut is what it's called. It's not my taste in ring, as I think I mentioned before, but it's gorgeous, and yeah, it's really beautiful. We see Ariana and Sandoval go to an appointment to get his tattoo removed, and he ends up having to wait for his first, like, laser session because he had an allergic reaction to the ink. So no tanning beds. It's going to be a lot of money, around $1,000, and it's going to take a year and a half to remove. Overall, it's a stupid idea to get that tattoo. We see Jax go to drinks with Sheena and Kristen and tells them about the giant argument he had over at Sandoval's apartment, but he insists that he's going to fight for Kristen to be able to go on the trip. Lala then shows up for drinks, and it gets really tense between her and Kristen, and then Jax ends up inviting Lala on the trip, all while Brittany is driving across the country to be with Jax. I've already said this a million times. This whole thing is really gross, and I feel really bad for Brittany because, like, she doesn't know any of this is happening. We see Sandoval talk a little bit about how he is helping Schwartz plan his big proposal, so he says that he's going to bring everybody out to dinner, and he wants to emphasize that everybody gets really dressed up, because, of course, this is when Schwartz is going to propose to Katie. We see Brittany finally arrive at LA and fully move into Jax's place. And Jax admits to us in interviews that he may have moved a little fast with her. No fucking shit. Brittany goes to visit SUR again, and James introduces himself to her, and then in interviews is like, this relationship isn't gonna last a year. Lala also sees Brittany at SUR, and then James tells her that Brittany has fully moved in with Jax, which confuses Lala since Jax said they weren't serious. We cut to Katie and Sheena going over to Kristen's apartment. They get a little bit more into how Ariana and Sandoval really don't want to be around Kristen, and apparently gave Sheena an ultimatum. And Sheena says that no one can say who she can and can't be friends with, and her and Katie basically both agree that they're being dramatic and throwing this way out of proportion. Later on in the episode, it's the day of the engagement, and Schwartz is at Sandoval's apartment stressing the fuck out. So Sandoval tries his best to calm him down and styles him and gets him all ready to go. We get a quick cutaway scene to James talking to Lisa, insisting that he's going on the Hawaii trip, especially because now Max is going. Lisa's son and him and Max are really close. Lisa says it's a horrible idea, but what's she gonna do, you know? And then we get back to what really matters, which is the engagement dinner. And Schwartz is losing. He's so nervous. He's losing his mind. He's so stressed. And basically how the whole thing goes down is that two people next to them, like two people sitting right next to their table, actually have a proposal. The thing is, this isn't real. These are two actors, right? So Schwartz goes in, takes the box. He's like, "Excuse me, I think I need to take over here." Grabs the ring box, turns, and proposes to Katie. And it's actually really, really cute. And she is elated and she says yes, and they're engaged. Yay! And that's where we end the episode. Episode 11 is titled very on theme. It's called Fully Engaged. And we actually find out that Katie got a congratulations text from Stassi, who she hasn't heard from since she left, since the reunion, I believe. So it's been a long time. At Sir, Jack says he needs to make it very clear who can and cannot come to Hawaii, and Jax decides to also have a birthday dinner before they leave, and says that he is inviting Kristen to this birthday dinner, which Ariana says it's fine. It's not Sandoval's birthday dinner, so she's like, whatever. However, her and Sheena then start arguing because Ariana feels like Sheena is making her feel crazy for not wanting to be around Kristen, and that Katie and Sheena aren't even real friends, so she doesn't understand why they're ganging up on her about this topic. Lisa then comes into Sir and tells Jackson Sandoval that Stassi is back in town. But of course, before anything can happen there, Lisa is like, no, Stassi's gonna have to go through me before anything. James is also at Sir, and he is determined to get on this Hawaii trip, especially because Max is going, and Max is like James's best friend. So he goes up to Jax and begs him. He's like, I'm sober, I'll be well behaved, don't worry. And Jax finally gives in and tells him he can go, but he's on very thin ice. This is so stupid. Why? I mean, I guess... No. Why would James want to go? I don't know. I think he just wants to go to Hawaii. Like, I get it. Like, your friend is going, but also that's so tense. Like, if I was Jax, I wouldn't let him go. It's my birthday. Like, Jesus. We see Katie over at Kristen's apartment, and Kristen actually tells her that she's been talking to Stassi. And apparently Stassi is really sad that she's not friends with Katie when her engagement is happening. And she feels bad that she's not, like, in this experience with her. Katie's like, oh, fucking well, she left, so what does it have to do with me, you know? We see Faith, Lala, and Sheena go bikini shopping for Hawaii, and they talk about Lala potentially sleeping with James and how she cannot stop flirting with Jax, so she's really just got to stay away from all of the boys. Then at Jax's apartment, Brittany talks about how it's kind of uncomfortable that Lala's going to Hawaii because she just heard from Sheena that Lala is saying that she can't stop flirting with Jax. Like, Jax is such an asshole, and he gets himself into these problems all the time, so I think Hawaii is going to be really interesting. Jax has his birthday dinner that he had planned at the beginning of the episode, and it's kind of awkward because Ariana, Sandoval, and Kristen are there, but it's been established that Kristen is not going to Hawaii. Sheena then tells everyone that Max, Lisa's son, got really injured because he fainted and then hit a piece of wood and a TV and hit his teeth, and like a lot of his teeth got like knocked out. So James took him to the ER where he had like mouth surgery. It was actually really serious, and Lisa was especially really, really freaked out. So yeah, Lala, James, and Faith go over to Villa Rosa, which is Lisa's big mansion house. And James is upset because if Max can't go to Hawaii, then this kind of fucks up his plans because he's he's alone. Max talks to Lisa about it, and she gives in and agrees that he can go to Hawaii as long as he's careful, as long as he's not drinking too much, and as long as James keeps an eye on him, although I don't know if James is the best person to do that. Back at Jax's dinner, Kristen and Sandoval go and talk. Sandoval says that he's always just going to tolerate her. Like, they're never going to be on good terms because she did a bunch of aggressive things and her actions have consequences. Kristen makes it really clear that she's always going to be around, so he's going to have to learn to deal with it. Now, back at the table, because Sandoval and Kristen kind of walked away from the table, back at the table, Katie and Sheena talk to Ariana about her negativity towards Kristen, and apparently Ariana's mom reached out to Sheena to see if how Sandoval and Ariana's relationship is going, and if she's really happy with Sandoval. And this really bothered Ariana because apparently Sheena said a bunch of stuff to her mom that wasn't the most positive. And so, yeah. And the episode ends off with all of them going to the airport and going to Hawaii and getting ready to party for Sandoval and Jax's birthday. All right, so we are officially halfway through the season. Episode 12 is titled Lays, Liquor, and Lies. And we start off with everybody arriving in Hawaii, and poor Katie, Jax accidentally slaps her ass thinking it was Brittany. It's actually so funny. But for once on a trip, all of the couples are staying together instead of separating like girls and boys and whatever. Except for Faith and Lala, who end up staying in a room together. Now, James is very clearly trying to sleep with Lala on this trip, but she makes it clear that that's not happening, and she's mostly just worried about Brittany because her and Jax were flirting for a while, and she's not sure if Brittany's aware of that. Now, in their room, Sandoval and Ariana look at the screenshots that Ariana's mom sent her about the conversation she had with Sheena, where Sheena says that Ariana's changed since getting with Sandoval, and they both get really upset about it because Sheena's literally shit-talking Ariana's relationship to her mother behind her back. Like, what do you mean? They all go to dinner at this really nice place, and Sandoval tells everyone that he has a really nice plan for the trip, saying that he planned a hike and surf lessons, and a huge day at the beach, but Ariana really can't focus on everything that Sandoval is saying because she's super upset about the whole Sheena thing, Sheena's sitting right next to her. Everybody makes a toast to the birthday boys, and Jax kind of makes some digs, and he tells everyone, he's like, I'm happy that everybody's here. I wish some other people were here, aka Kristen, and some people are here that shouldn't be, aka James. And of course, this breaks out into a giant argument. Jax was low-key really rude to Lala, and then James storms off, and people start fighting, and then everybody goes to the bar, and Jax straight up says he doesn't like James, but he's gonna let bygones be bygones. Now, after everybody split up, Sandoval and Ariana go and confront Sheena about the text that Sheena sent to her mom, and Sheena stands by everything she says. She says, you have changed since getting into a relationship with Sandoval. Your mom is concerned, and this leads to them getting into a really big argument. The next day, a couple people from the group decide to go on a hike. I can't remember exactly who was there, but it was for sure Brittany, Lala, Jax, Faith, Sandoval, and Schwartz. I don't know if anybody else was there, but I know they were there. And I know they were there because Lala and Faith, they reached like a waterfall water area. They decide to get in, and Lala and Faith decide to take off their tops and go topless and swim in front of all the boys. Now, we cut away from this scene to see Sheena and Shay go to the beach. And Sheena brings secret tequila tampons. I don't know if you guys have ever seen them, but like they're things that look like tampons, but they're filled with like drinks and stuff, like liquor usually, for places that like it's illegal to have alcohol, like public places. Keep in mind, Shay is supposed to be sober at this time, and she's just like handing these to him. Sure. Ariana was also on this hike because she starts talking to everybody about the annoying, weird text that Sheena had sent to her mom. Now, back on the hike, Brittany and Lala talk to each other about the flirting, and Lala kind of defends herself and realizes that Jax is a fucking liar and that he's been lying to her about a bunch of stuff because Brittany actually doesn't know anything. Which I feel like you should have known before. Like, I feel like everybody was telling you he was a liar, but everybody finds out in their own time, I guess. At the hotel, Schwartz tells Katie about Lala and Faith going topless, and that he didn't like the text that Sheena sent to Ariana's mom. Katie gets defensive of Sheena and says that Sandoval does tend to be really cocky, so she doesn't blame Sheena for being a bit concerned. And Katie does not like the fact that Lala and Faith went topless and feels like it was kind of disrespectful to the relationships. I can see this. I don't think Lala or Faith meant any harm, and they just wanted to go topless in Hawaii and like go skinny dipping. I do, however, think if you're gonna do that around boys who are in relationships, you should make sure their girlfriends are there and their girlfriends are okay with it, and that the guys are okay with it. Cause I am I understand, oh yeah, we're gonna go topless, but you do need the consent of everyone there. Even if you yourself are comfortable with that, other people might not be comfortable in seeing you like that. You need the consent of all parties if you're gonna be doing that. Now, at dinner that night, Katie has a conversation with Lala about how she really wasn't okay with that. Brittany also starts talking at this dinner about how much she trusts Jax, and Lala steps in the middle of her saying this and tells Brittany everything that went on between them. Brittany gets low-key really pissed off at Lala and is in denial that Jax had any big role in this, and Lala starts getting pissed off and defending herself because none of the girls trust her with her man. In Lala's defense, she hasn't technically done anything with someone who she thought was in a relationship. Like, when she did stuff with James, she thought that James was single. He wasn't. That's not her fault. James should have told her the truth. Jax was being really wishy-washy about the whole situation. Do I think she should have just stayed away from them both, knowing the state of their relation, like how unstable their relationship status was? Yeah, but Brittany should be mad at Jax. Like, what? And then Brittany does go and talks to Jax, who of course denied everything, and Lala goes up and starts yelling at him and calling her a liar. And then Sheena covers for Jax. Like, Sheena watched him do all of this and then covers for him, and then Lala starts crying because she feels super ganged up on. And that's where we end the episode, with Lala just, like, being shit on for, like, going after a guy with a girlfriend, but, like, she didn't know. I don't know. It was just fucked up. And Sheena's also fucked for covering for him, because what do you mean? Anyways, that's where we end the episode. Episode 13 is titled The Bitch Is Back, and we start right where we left off last episode with the fight between Brittany, Jax, and Lala, I guess, continuing. Jax tells us in interviews that he's just straight up lying because he doesn't want to deal with the whole fallout of everything, even though it's literally it's always his fault, and then he just doesn't want to deal with the fallout, so, like, okay, sir. They all decide to go to the pool, except for Lala and Faith, who go back to the hotel room, and James and Max then go check up on her because they know she's, a little upset about the whole thing. Now, something that Lala says, which I actually really agree with, is the fact that Faith was also naked with her. Like, she had her tits out, everything, and no one said anything, and she's really upset and crying about it because everybody is coming at her for the entire situation, even though they know Jax is lying, and nobody's gonna admit it to Brittany, especially fucking Sheena, who literally lied to Brittany's face as well. Like, oh, God, everyone pisses me off. I'm not super on board with the fact that she just decided to, go skinny dipping in front of all the boys without asking anybody if they were comfortable with that. But in the overall scheme of things, I really don't think that, I think they're going way too hard on her. James was a really big asshole in this situation because even though he went to check on her in the hotel room, he does this idiot move and tries to sleep with her while she's upset about this whole situation. Obviously, she's like, get away from me, so I don't want to deal with you right now. And he calls her tease. Ew, it's just such disgusting behavior. Like, she just said no, like, leave her alone. And so Faith ends up sleeping in Lala's bed instead. Now, at the pool where everybody's at, Sheena apologizes, but it's kind of clear that she really doesn't mean it, to Ariana, and she really can't take accountability, but Ariana calls her out on this right away. Like, she can see right through Sheena's bullshit immediately and is like, I know you don't mean this apology, so I really don't, like, I don't want to hear it right now. Now, Shay was sneaking drinks while he was at the pool, so he's wasted, and Sheena's really upset about it because he can't moderate his drinking, which, again, because of what we've seen earlier on in the season, he has some issues with that, but, like, why would you bring him to the beach then? Like, I don't know. I just, give him a break. This then leads to Sheena and him fighting in their hotel room when they get back from the beach. Sheena thinks that Shay got way too drunk, and Shay says that Sheena doesn't listen to him about anything ever, so it's all just kind of going back and forth. They keep going back into this, like, miscommunication, not being able to communicate their issues to each other properly problem, which I guess we're gonna have to see how that goes, because if they're not able to resolve that, it's not gonna help anything. We see Lisa call her son to check up on him, make sure he hasn't been drinking or making out with anyone, and that he's been taking his meds, none of which he's been doing, but he says yes. And then the gang all goes surfing. While they're at the beach going surfing, Katie makes a comment which I really didn't like. She says, she starts honing in on Lala's bikini and saying how it's vulgar. What? I don't know. I really love Katie most of the time, and usually I'm on her side, but I really do think that she's going way too hard on Lala for this situation. Sheena tries to talk to Lala about her crying and leaving last night, and Lala says that the way she was spoken to last night was not okay, which I agree with. Sheena kind of accidentally calls her a slut while trying to relate to her, like, in this situation, but Lala says that she's just trying to be genuine, and Sheena's all like, don't worry, I get it. Like, Sheena's like, okay, it's okay, I'm on your side, like, blah, 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 blah. The whole Sheena thing about, like, oh, like, yeah, we can be friends, I guess, even though I didn't like you 2 seconds ago type thing, So back in WeHo, aka West Hollywood, we see Kristen's apartment, and lo and behold, the queen herself, Miss Stassi Schroeder, walks onto our screen for the first time all season. Stassi is in Kristen's apartment. So we find out that Kristen had apparently been reaching out to Stassi little by little, and Stassi was receptive to this, and now they're on the mend from their catastrophic fallout from the last 2 seasons. Stassi says that Patrick, who was the boyfriend that she like moved away with from New York and then back to LA and was kind of back and forth with, kind of became just like roommates, so they've each moved into their own places to try and like rekindle the flame of their relationship. For the record, I don't think that ever works in any relationship. But, okay, she says she handled things really poorly last season, and she became really codependent of Patrick and all of the friends that she had left, which is why she blew up at Katie, but she really wants to mend things with her. However, the situation is really complicated, so I guess we're going to have to see how that goes. Stassi finally really explains that her problem was Scheana, because she had a really big issue with Scheana last season, and last season she told us it was about the tweets that Scheana had sent out about her, which I think is valid enough, but we find out the actual reason is a lot more serious, and I think we mentioned this in the reunion of last season, which is that Scheana supposedly went around showing people and laughing at a non-consensual sexual video of Stassi that her ex-boyfriend had screen recorded and distributed without her knowledge or permission, which is very illegal, both on Sheena's end, her ex-boyfriend's end, and pretty much anyone who ever sent that video to anyone, period, because it was not taken consensually. That is technically revenge porn, which I'm pretty sure in California I don't think it's a civil crime. I think it's a federal one. So, yeah, really illegal. I don't know if it was illegal at this time, though. But Scheana did this, and then Katie became friends with her, which is why Stassi felt so violated by Katie becoming friends with Scheana. I get it. I would have been livid if my best friend became friends with the person who spread the revenge porn tape of me around. Oh no. Honestly, after we got that explanation, no wonder Stassi was unhinged when it came to everybody and had her walls up so high. I would have been 10 times worse. And I'm not even kidding. Like, that's disgusting. Ew. Anyways, I'm Team Stassi, like, forever. Just for the record. I don't know if you guys have picked up on that yet in the past 3 seasons that we've done. Back in Hawaii, Kristen is texting Jax, because remember, Jax really wanted Kristen to go on the trip, so they're still in contact while they're on vacation, and she tells him that she's having lunch with Stassi, and he tells the whole group, which leads to Scheana and Katie starting to just shit all over her and to just talk really bad about Stassi, which honestly hurt to watch a lot. I have it in my notes. It's just a little arrow and it says this hurts, period. So yeah. Now everybody goes to dinner and the boys will not stop talking about sex. And I mean all of the boys, about how they're not getting any, about how they're having lots of it, about how they're not enjoying it, about how their partner doesn't want to do it, about how they don't have a partner, but they're trying to get with some girls on the trip. They won't shut up. And Lala tells us in interviews that her and James, they tried to hook up right before the trip. Like, genuinely, like, were about to. But he was so drunk that he literally couldn't do it. So she friend-zoned him instead. Which, I mean, it happens to everyone, guys. It's okay. It's okay. It's normal. But I don't blame her either, because he's been kind of a dick to her otherwise, you know. Anyways. Later on in this episode, Sandoval pulls Scheana to talk about the whole texting Ariana's mom situation, and Scheana tries to apologize again, but she really doesn't mean it, and Sandoval, everybody can tell, and Sandoval calls her out for being manipulative and overpowering to Shay, to which I agree to a certain extent. We really don't get the ins and outs of Scheana and Shay's marriage, but from the stuff that you do get, you can tell that she's very much the dominant person in the relationship. Nothing wrong with that, but it does become an issue when your partner has a problem and they don't feel they can come to you because they feel like you overpower them, which is exactly what Shay himself has said that he felt like Scheana does. So good for Sandoval for calling her out on this, honestly, because it's not a healthy way to go about a relationship, especially with the partner who's struggling with addiction at that moment, you know? Now, they end up apologizing to each other and kind of working things out, and then later we see Kristen and Stassi go to said dinner and lunch that Kristen was texting Jax about, and Kristen said that Scheana had called her talking about their drama with Ariana, so Stassi's kind of getting involved in everything now. Now, Kristen has apparently been seeing this guy, or been texting this guy, and she had told Stassi about it earlier, and at the dinner, Stassi actually has to break the news to her that this guy has a very serious live-in girlfriend. Now, he gets to the dinner, because he was actually meeting the girls there, and Stassi immediately, like, she doesn't give him a second. She's just like, so, what is this girlfriend that we've been hearing about? He says it's an ex, which doesn't live with him anymore, but they are on and off. Now, Kevin, the guy who Kristen's dating, I guess, says this weird, disrespectful, what the hell thing that I cannot believe that Kristen just took. He literally says he'd rather be with his ex, but since they're off right now, he's just gonna be with Kristen. And Kristen is just completely chill with that. To which Stassi tells us in interviews that she literally needs to physically bite her tongue because she's on a forgiveness streak and she's not gonna freak out, but what the hell? And seriously, Kristen, where are your standards? Like, stand up. In Hawaii, we see the gang go to the club where Brittany and Lala, like, squash everything. I don't know, they're both wasted, so it's just like, oh, we're gonna be best friends, we're gonna put it all in the past, which, sure, girl, I mean, it's neither of you are the problem here. So the next morning we see them all hungover, they have to pack, but a certain person is missing. Jax Taylor is nowhere to be found in the morning, to which we quickly find out that this dumb idiot got himself arrested on a goddamn felony charge for stealing a pair of sunglasses, and his bail is 11 grand, which then Schwartz has to go post for him because they leave that day back to LA, and Jax manages to get to the airport on time but feels really embarrassed and guilty because no fucking shit. And that's where we end the episode. Episode 14 is titled Sex, Lies, and Stassi's Videotape, and we see everybody go back to LA, but Jax doesn't have his bags because they went on a different plane in order to get him out of jail on time, you know, because he was in prison. Not prison, he was in jail. There's a difference. But he was in jail on a felony charge. Jesus Christ. Now, Jax talks to Brittany about how stupid and embarrassed he feels about the pair of sunglasses, and he apologizes to her, not only for the whole, like, you know, getting arrested on their first couple's vacation together, their vacation that they took as a couple, I mean, but also because he stole the sunglasses for her. Like, he gave them to her. Now, Ariana comes to their apartment to give Jax his bags of clothes because they took it for him because they went on the original flight with him. And at SUR, everybody's talking about how stupid Jax is, including the chefs. The chefs know everything. They're so funny. They're the same ones who, like, commented about Kristen. I don't know what else they've talked about. Probably, like, how crazy, like, Jax and Laura Lee were in the first season. I'm sure they mentioned something about that. But I fucking love these chefs because they always have the tea. Lala says that she's officially turned off Jax because he went to jail for a pair of sunglasses. I think she says in interviews, she's like, it wasn't even like a big giant FBI like drug deal bust, which could have been like a little sexy because, you know, like crime boss, like something along those lines. She says, she was like, no, it's pathetic. He went to jail for a pair of goddamn sunglasses. Expensive ones, too. They were like $350 sunglasses. Katie and Sheena then go over to Kristen's apartment and talk about the whole situation. And Kristen says, like, they just comment about how Jax has zero impulse control. They start talking about Kevin, the guy that Kristen is seeing, which may or may not have a girlfriend. And she says that he is crashing with her for who knows how long. And his first week staying, he said that he was in love with her. Like, he literally was they started dating. He said that he'd rather be with his girlfriend, but since they're off right now, he's going to be with Kristen. He then moves in with her rent-free, doesn't give her a date on how long he'll be staying, and then says he loves her in the first week. That's the whole summary of everything this guy's doing, just so you guys get a picture in your brain. Yep. They then move on to talk about the whole Ariana and Sandoval situation, and Sheena says that she feels like Ariana and Kristen's role of, like, Ariana being cool and chill and Kristen being psycho and angry have reversed. We then also get a moment of Kristen telling Katie that Stassi is back and misses her and wants to talk to her, and Katie says no. She says, I have moved on with my life and I'm friends with Sheena now, and Sheena says nobody wants Stassi around. So far Stassi is not exactly getting a super warm welcome back. We cut to another scene of the boys going to visit Brittany at her job at Hooters because she got a serving job there, and Jax tells them that he's meeting with Lisa at Villa Rosa later, probably to talk about the whole sunglasses situation, and that he's scared shitless, as he should be. It's Lisa. Later on, we go back to Kristen's apartment, but this time Stassi's there, and she's talking about how her and Patrick are constantly going up and down and on and off, and she's really sad because she can't make it work. And then Kevin is also there because, you know, he's staying in her apartment. And he's like, oh my God, like, I know how you feel about, because Stassi's like, I wish so badly that I can make it work with somebody who I feel like is a perfect person for me, but it's just not working. And I want to be with him forever. And then Kevin is like, I know how you feel about wanting to be with someone like that forever and having that kind of connection. And Stassi's literally like, sir, calm down. Like, you've been here for a week. Chill. Stassi also gives us a little bit of insight about how she feels about the whole Jax jail situation and how he used to steal for her all the time. Like, it's very well known that that man is a kleptomaniac, and she to this day has like little purses that she has no idea where they came from, and she like knows for a fact that he stole them from her, but she's not gonna ask any questions. Stassi also talks about how just chaotic her entire life has been, and she has nothing figured out, and she doesn't even have a place to stay, which then leads Kristen to actually offering her apartment for Stassi to stay at in the meantime while she finds a place of her own. And Stassi agrees, which I think is insane considering where they were the last 2 seasons. Like, the fact that they're here, I don't know, I really like it. So now, as mentioned earlier, Jax was called to a meeting with Lisa at Villa Rosa to talk about the whole situation, and she is big mad. He tries to explain that he was drunk when he stole the glasses, but Lisa's not having any of it, and says that Jax feels like he can take whatever he wants, and she really can't trust him. So she says that he has to justify her not firing him, because honestly, she has the right to. She says that Jax has to justify why she shouldn't fire him, and he begs and begs and begs, and she ends up just suspending him for a couple weeks. Then at Sandoval's apartment, he and Ariana talk about how they want to be happy for Shay and Sheena on their 1-year anniversary, because it is their 1 year, but they're not in a good place, and they feel like Sheena is really jealous of their relationship, and they just have decided not to hang out with them as much. The jealous thing I could understand to an extent, because we haven't seen any problems between Sandoval and Ariana up until this point, like any serious problems where Sheena is going through hell in her relationship. But I don't know. I think the whole thing is just really stupid. I don't think anybody should have gotten in anyone's business relationship-wise unless asked. So yeah. Now, Brittany, Jax, and Kristen go out for drinks, and Kevin is set to join them later on. Like, he was just running a bit late. Jax tells Kristen how he got suspended, and then they start talking about Kevin's maybe girlfriend, to which Jax says he knows for a fact that they are still together. Kristen gets really mad at this and says she didn't know and she wouldn't have done anything with him if she had known. Kevin then shows up, and Jax starts just straight up asking him about the girlfriend, and he gives like a vague confirmation to the fact that he does in fact, like, this girlfriend isn't just fake, she does exist, to which Kristen goes off on him and basically kicks him out, and he leaves. The next morning, we see Stassi and Kristen kind of set up everything for Stassi at her apartment because she's staying with Kristen for a while, mostly because when her and Jax were living together, Jax screwed up her credit a lot because her name was on the lease, and he was always like really bad at paying rent, and he did a bunch of damage to the apartment. Stassi mentions that on Saturday she's gonna see Lisa and how she's really over the whole sex tape thing, and needs to apologize to Lisa. Not that she wants to, because apparently Lisa had paid off her ex-boyfriend not to release the tape. Stassi still doesn't like the way that Lisa handled the situation, and she really doesn't want to like have to admit the fact that she was wrong because she doesn't feel like she is, but she's just gonna do it because it's the first step into getting into everybody else's life. We see Jax go over to Schwartz and Katie's apartment to pay back the 11 grand bail that Schwartz had posted to him. And Katie says that Stassi had apparently been messaging her a ton, but Katie hadn't responded so far. Schwartz in interviews says that he's really liked Katie a lot more since Stassi's been gone, and that she's been a lot more chill. I don't know how I feel about that, just because from what I saw, Stassi was the main person to give Katie support and back her up when Katie was upset about the fact that Schwartz didn't defend her, and like when she stood her ground against Schwartz, rightly so, Stassi was kind of her reassurance that she was in the right. So now that Stassi's gone, it kind of just feels like Katie's a lot more submissive to Schwartz. Not that she doesn't stand up for herself, but she's not as confident in it without Stassi. I feel like, I don't know. I think she just tries to keep the peace a lot more, even though sometimes that's not a good thing for yourself, you know? That night, we see Sheena and Shay go out for their 1-year anniversary dinner, and this girl is literally ordering every single cocktail on the menu, and then in interviews fully admits to being conflicted with Shay and his sobriety, tells him, like, she's like, I'm telling him not to drink 1 minute and then going all out the next, but it's kind of like a fun little balance. Shay says it does get a little frustrating having Sheena count his drinks, but it's not worth arguing over, especially because he acknowledges that it's coming from a good place from her. They literally refuse to admit the fact that Shay's an alcoholic and just says that he needs to find a happy medium between getting wasted and like being completely dry and sober. We do see a really fun scene with Lala and James doing a sexy photo shoot for an underwear brand, and they set boundaries, like Lala sets boundaries with him at that photo shoot, saying that they're friends who aren't exclusive, they just like to make out, but they can sleep with whoever they want, and they just like, they're free to do whatever they want with whoever they want. The next scene that we get of the episode is Stassi going over to Sir to talk to Lisa. Now she goes over before Sir opens. Stassi apologizes and says that she was in fact disrespectful to Lisa, and Lisa says, I wish I never would have had your back. Stassi tries to pay the money back for the sex tape, but Lisa refuses to take it, and then we get this.
Really hard. I'm really doing my best right now. I'm doing my best. I really am trying to do my best right now. I'm sorry that I hurt everyone. I don't want your money. It's an insult. Okay, well, I was just coming to apologize, so.
Hey, you can stay there. We've got more to talk about.
What more is it? You hate me, Lisa. You hate
You know what? You're not important enough to hate. Sit down.
Stassi just starts crying and tells Lisa that she's trying to make amends with everyone and that she hopes that they're able to work it out. And then it just basically leaves with Stassi in tears and Lisa like, I don't know what to tell you, girl. So yeah, that's where we end the episode. It's kind of a sad one. Episode 15 is titled Pucker and Pout, and Stassi had Christina over to the apartment. Christina Kelly, who was her old coworker at SUR, who she's still friends with, and says that Kristen is the best roommate ever because she's literally never home. Now, Christina asks about the talk with Lisa, and Stassi says that it was absolutely horrible. Stassi asks a little bit more about like any info she has on where Katie still stands with her, and Christina says that Katie really doesn't want to talk to Stassi and tells her to reach out to those around Katie to see if maybe getting within her circle might help get Katie back on her side. Katie's apartment, and talk about a party she's throwing for her blog called Pucker and Pout, which may have been mentioned earlier on in the episodes. And they bring up how Stassi is not going to either this party or the engagement party, which they would have never thought that Stassi would have not been at in the years prior. We cut to Lisa taking Max for a dental appointment, because remember, he got like half of his teeth knocked out when he had that accident, and James is with them, and we get some more disgusting James commentary. James mentioned that he drunk texted both Kristen and Lala, and apparently Lala's ex came into town and they hooked up, which, whatever. And James sent her this super gross, disrespectful text calling Lala a whore, all while drunk. And at the same time when this scene is taking place, we see Lala having a conversation at SUR with Sheena about it. And she calls him a disrespectful child to Sheena when she's showing Sheena the text that James sent her while drunk, because that is gross. I don't care how drunk you are. Why are you calling me a whore? It's none of your business, especially because they just put these boundaries up with each other where they weren't exclusive. Lala also wasn't invited to Katie's blog party, and when she asks why, Katie tells her that it was really just a capacity thing, like it's a small venue, she can only bring the people closest to her, and Lala just doesn't fit in that category, which I think is fair. We get a quick cutaway scene to Jax and Brittany at their apartment talking about his whole legal battle, and he says he might have to go back to Hawaii and serve time. At SUR, Lisa talks to Katie about Stassi, tells her about the meeting she had with Stassi, and Katie reiterates that she really wants nothing to do with it at the time. She doesn't want to be friends with her. James arrives at SUR and goes up to talk to Lala, where she calls him out for his mean-ass text, and it turns into a giant fight, and at the end of it, they both agree to just stay out of each other's business and out of each other's way, which I think was what the consensus had been before, and James just didn't want to do that, but okay. James and Max talk about Kristen, because remember, Kristen also received some drunk text from James, and James basically admits that he's still in love with her and wants to get back together with her, so he's planning on crashing Katie's party, which he was explicitly told not to come to by Katie for capacity reasons. And yeah, he's just decided he's going anyways. Now, at the party, Lisa shows up because she was invited, and shortly after Max does, and James also crashes with him. Kristen is with a date. She has her own date. She's having a lot of fun with him, and he fully goes up to her and like pulls him away. Kristen decides to go with him. We later find out that she decided to go with him to not cause a scene in the middle of Katie's party. And he said to us that he was going to pull Kristen to admit how he feels about her because he wants her back, except that he pulls her aside, and the second she gets even a little bit upset with him, he starts throwing insults her way and screaming at her. Now, at the end of it, despite the whole Kristen and James drama, Katie's party was a huge success for her blog. She was very happy. And then Schwartz mentions to Katie that during the party, he got a text from Stassi. He talks to Katie about it and decides to see what Stassi wants because she's asking to meet up with him for like a lunch. And yeah, this is Stassi following Christina Kelly's advice to kind of get in the circle around Katie to try and get closer to Katie. The last scene we get of this episode is actually Schwartz going to meet up with Stassi for dinner. Now, this is the first time I have ever seen Schwartz ever properly stand up for Katie. He goes in on Stassi. He says that she was a pain in the ass and a bitch to Katie. Like, genuinely just goes in on her, which I think is fair, but why didn't you ever say this to any of the boys? Why didn't you ever say this to any of the boys when they said, like, twice as bad stuff about Katie all of the time? But, like, whatever. Stassi apologizes to Schwartz for cutting people out too easily. She says that over time she has come to the conclusion that history does matter to her, because before she was just like, oh, I don't really care about the history we have as friends. Like, if you've wronged me, you've wronged me. But she says, no, it does really matter, and I do have to take it into account when it comes to managing my friendships. And she starts crying and questioning why everybody else gets forgiven but not her, which is also fair, because Jax has been forgiven at this point, Kristen's been forgiven at this point, but no, Stassi's just cut out of, and nobody wants to let her back in. It's not fair. And yeah. And then at the end of the day, Schwartz did stand up for Katie, but of course he doesn't really have that much of a backbone, so he ends up inviting her to the engagement party, which Katie specifically said she wasn't going to be at, but it's Schwartz, so what do you expect? And that's where we end the episode. Episode 16 is titled Bitch Ghost, and we see Lala and her roommate, who also works at SUR, planning their housewarming party. So I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Lala actually lives in Stassi and Jax's old place, and Lala has Stassi's old room, which I think is really cool. And Stassi is friends with Lala's roommate, so her, along with everybody else from SUR, is invited. And Stassi is one of the first to get there. She says she's really scared about how awkward everything is going to be, but she's going to do her best to just break the ice. People start arriving, and she knows Katie's not going to be there, by the way. Katie's not coming to this housewarming party. It's mostly just like Sandoval and like Sheena, Lala's friends, right? And so Sandoval comes and is basically ignoring Stassi, but Sheena actually breaks the ice in a really funny way. I will give this to her. She ends up bringing Stassi a bottle of Pinot Grigio, which is a reference to last season. And if you haven't watched my video on last season, go watch it and you'll know exactly why this is funny. It's just kind of an inside joke, but which I'm pretty sure was memed by this point, so it makes sense why Sheena would remember that too. Sandoval then breaks the silence that he was holding with Stassi and questions why she's sleeping on Kristen's couch if the whole thing last season was to stand so hard on business. And Stassi's like, that wasn't my problem. My problem wasn't with Kristen. It was with people just not being good people. Which I guess does have a lot to do with Kristen. Sandoval just kind of points out the fact that she looks like a hypocrite, which I hate to give a man a point, but in the grand scheme of things, I understand why people would think that about Stassi. Stassi and Sheena end up really sitting down to talk, and Stassi kind of clarifies up that her issue with Katie was because of the whole sex tape thing with Sheena, not because of Kristen. And Sheena clears up, like, she is very, very adamant and tries to be as genuine as she can with Stassi about the fact that she did not spread that video around maliciously. Yes, she saw it, but not, and like, she didn't laugh at it. She honestly just wanted to like see what was going on and get rid of it. Which Stassi decides to believe, and they weirdly make up. Like, they decide to stop hating each other, and they form this truce. Good, I guess. It's one more step to getting closer to Katie. Now, while this dinner party is going on, Jax, Katie, and Schwartz are also at dinner out, and Schwartz mentions that he invited Stassi to the engagement party, and Katie is really upset about it, because she's like, really? I told you I didn't want her there, and you never stand on business for me, ever. Katie says that she just wants Stassi to realize that what she did was wrong, and yeah, it was bad. She was really sad about it. The next day, we see Sandoval and Schwartz go to a meeting with Pandora and Jason about the whole sangria business thing, and Schwartz basically tells them he's pulling out and that he's not ready for that kind of commitment. Even though he's engaged now, still with the commitment thing, can't do it. At SUR, Sheena goes to talk to Lisa about making up with Stassi, and she says that she actually believed that Stassi had changed and thinks it would be beneficial for her and Katie to talk. Lisa says she's really skeptical, especially after how much Katie's grown since Stassi's been gone. I don't really... Yes, Katie has grown a ton. She has come into her own since she's not relying as much on Stassi, but I do think that because they've both grown as people, it would be good for them both to talk to each other. I don't know. I don't really agree with Lisa here, but then again, I'm just a Stassi stan, so I can't help it. The boys go to Villa Rosa and bring clothes for the clothing drive that I mentioned way earlier, and Schwartz gets pulled by Lisa to talk about pulling out of the sangria business, and she says that she's really sick of him not being able to commit to anything, especially considering the fact that he is engaged to Katie now, which is what I just said. Now, the last big event of this episode is actually the jeweler who gave Schwartz the engagement ring for Katie is actually having this big party at SUR for marriage equality. Now, Kristen ends up crashing the party with this guy called Carter, who she's been talking to and is dating now, apparently. However, Kristen wasn't even invited to this party.
Wait, did you guys know that she's not on the list for this party? So Kristen has decided to come to another party that she wasn't invited to at a restaurant owned by a woman who despises her. The DJ is her very volatile and very recent ex-boyfriend with a guy on her arm. He probably has no idea what the hell he's getting into. She's not supposed to be here. Just another night in the life of Kristen Doty.
Lisa goes up to the DJ booth where James is DJing and makes it very clear that he's only allowed to have like 1 drinks max. Now, at the party, we also see Katie talk to Schwartz about the whole pulling out of the sangria business thing because he had just told her, and she's really pissed off about it. She says to get a fucking job, that they're going to be married, that he needs financial stability, and she's also really tired of this. We also find out that Brittany is getting a boob job, which Jax is paying for, and is getting them to the size that she wants, aka huge. It's kind of insinuated in the show that Jax really wants her to go bigger than she wants, and the edit that he gets is kind of him really pushing that narrative. The terms that I use for that are really specific, but we'll go into that when we talk about her boob job more later on. Sheena and Shay host the after party at their apartment, and at that after party, Katie tells Sheena how Schwartz invited Stassi to the engagement party, and Sheena says that it was actually good to have a conversation with Stassi, but Katie still thinks it was manipulative on Stassi's end, and she's really not sure how she feels about it. Schwartz starts venting to the boys about the whole situation, and Jax gets weirdly pissed off at Schwartz for entertaining Stassi, even though the entire thing between Stassi and Jax specifically, Jax is entirely in the wrong. Like, he has no right to be mad at Stassi for doing anything ever. And he gets, like, really heated. And the boys start fighting because Sandoval, like, gets in between this argument and is like, Jax, you're being ridiculous. And he starts yelling. And then Jax says something so fucking stupid.
Like, dude, just be his f***ing friend,
I
man.
am being his friend. I was just saying this is
I'm
what...
out. I gotta walk it off. You guys figure it out. I'm out.
Dude, stop acting like you're the number 1 guy in this group, man. I'm the number 1 guy in this group.
Are you f***ing kidding me, Jax? F*** you, man.
Jax says this, and Sandoval fucking blows up. He gets so pissed off, and we end the episode with him just getting so mad at Jax for being so full of himself and even having the audacity to say that, and it ends with the boys fighting. Episode 17 is titled Beach Please. We start off with Katie, Sheena, and Ariana going lingerie shopping because Sheena's really trying to rekindle the friendship they had before, but it's kind of awkward the whole time, and it doesn't really work. But while they're out there, apparently Stassi and Kristen are planning a Palm Springs trip, and they really want Katie and Sheena to come because Kristen's friends' parents have a house in Palm Springs where they want to stay for like a weekend, but they don't really know how they feel about it. We then cut to James at a studio putting together a CD for Pump that he wrote and produced himself, and Lisa comes to check in on it and him and see how he's doing, and talks to him about the fight that he had with Lala earlier and his feelings for Kristen, to which Lisa says, stay the hell away from her, she only does bad things for you, which I agree. I think they do bad things for each other, but yeah. We then get a quick cutaway scene to the Toms going to the tattoo removal place to try and get rid of Sandoval's ass tattoo. Remember, he had to wait a little bit for his first session because he had an allergic reaction to the red ink, but he finally manages to get his first session, which of course hurts like a bitch. Don't get tattoos unless you're super sure. granted, there are some people who just don't care. And if you're one of those people, then sure, do what you want. And I mean, everyone can do what they want. But I have a 3-year rule personally when it comes to tattoos. I have to want it for at least 3 years, like have wanted it for at least 3 years. And I have to have the approval of like everyone whose opinion I value about the placement, about the actual design, what it is, all of that. But I guess some people don't care. But clearly he did. And now he has to deal with this removal. So don't do that. Also, don't get tattoos in Vegas. What? We see Jax and Brittany go for her boob job consultation, and Jax is still pushing her to go up to a D, even though she just wants a full C. But I guess we're just going to have to see where that goes. We then get to a scene at Sheena and Shay's place where they're still arguing about his drinking habits, and they debate moving away from LA because Shay doesn't really feel connected and doesn't really feel comfortable or at home there. We see an interaction between Ariana, Sandoval, and Jax because Sandoval comes to their apartment to pick up the Kristen couch from them, and they bring up the argument from days before where Jax was all like, I'm the number one guy in this group. And it kind of leads to another mini argument where Jax says that he thinks Ariana brings out the worst in Sandoval, and when she's around, he always makes situations worse than they need to be, and he used to be super chill, but now he's not. And Sandoval gets really pissed off at this. He's like, I'm a great friend, I know I am, and everybody around me needs to stop talking like I'm not, which to degree I actually agree with, but I digress. Now Brittany officially gets her boob job and all goes well, but apparently they went bigger than she originally planned, so I think they went with the D's, which was Jax's idea, but okay. We then cut to Sir, where we see Peter telling Lala about how apparently the night before James was working at Pump DJing, and he ended up getting into a giant fight with one of the waiters there, and how he was drinking, so it made everything worse, and it was a really big issue. We cut back to Jax's apartment where he's taking care of Brittany post-op, and Katie and Schwartz come over to check on her, and they actually mentioned that they're doing an engagement photo shoot on the beach, and everybody is invited to come to kind of hang out afterwards. Now, Schwartz does not want to do this engagement photo shoot. He's being such a baby about it and so annoying, which I think is like stupid, like too bad, so sad. Engagement photo shoots are very standard for weddings, especially an LA wedding. He thinks it's gonna be cheesy. Like, dude, you're a model. Like, you're a literal model. Now, on the beach, Katie, the Toms, Sheena, and Shay, and Jax are talking about the whole James situation that had happened the night before or 2 nights before. And apparently Lisa had called him in for a meeting about the whole thing. We then cut to said meeting where we see Lisa pull the server, the waiter who was involved in the whole situation, whose name is Richardson, and James for a talk. Now we get the story from their perspective saying that apparently Kristen came in drunk and started throwing it in James's face that she was seeing someone else, and he got pissed off and Richardson tried to interfere. Now Richardson is fluent in French and so is Lisa. So he starts talking to her in French while James is literally just sitting there and has no idea what they're saying, and telling her all of the insults that James threw his way and how he was super disrespectful and rude. Now, Richardson is apparently, like we hear this from the other cast too, is apparently like the nicest person ever. So for James to have done this to him was completely uncalled for. Lisa is really over the whole situation and fires him from Sir, suspends him as a DJ at Pump, and demotes him back down to bussing once more. We then see Lala, Faith, and Peter meet up with everybody else on the beach, and they start talking about how Kristen had done a comedy sketch-like performance with some of her friends. One of her friends who was an actual, like, career comic, which is when we get this from Ariana.
If you're gonna do sketch comedy, you should maybe, like, take a class or something. Or,
I don't know what she does in her free time.
I take sketch comedy very seriously, so it offends me when people just think that they can just do it. I'm all about people trying to better themselves. Lord knows, she needs a hobby. But you don't just start telling people that you do comedy. I mean, Kristen's a joke, but she doesn't make jokes.
Now, I've been really open when it comes to defending Ariana and Sandoval in this situation because I understand the hell that Kristen put them through last season, but this was just stupid. Like, this was so unnecessary. They were doing too much, especially because later on Kristen ends up coming. I mean, before Kristen arrives there, Katie, because Ariana says this, and Katie calls her out for just having a weird attitude. And Ariana straight up just tells her, like, oh, well, I've been pretending to have a good time with everyone for a while now, so whatever. Just in front of everyone's faces while she's there with them, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Then why are you here? James shows up, actually, with a girl, and meets everyone and tells them about how he got fired at Sir and how he got demoted at Pump. Now, Kristen then, again, which I mentioned earlier, arrives with the comedian friend that Ariana had been kind of low-key insulting earlier, and realizes that James is trying to make her jealous, but she really doesn't care. Then she goes and sits with Jax, and Jax tells her exactly what Ariana said, and Kristen goes and confronts Ariana about it. They start arguing about the whole thing, and Kristen mentions that nobody ever likes them because they're always so negative, and Ariana straight up starts insulting her friend. She's like, I don't think your work is original, this, and that. She's being mean. Like, she genuinely is being mean. But Ariana and Sandoval bring up last summer when Kristen was just going nuts on everyone, and the whole thing just kind of blew up. The last scene of the episode is a side conversation between Peter and Jax about the whole Hawaii thing, and Jax gets really vulnerable with Peter for a second and says that he feels super lost, especially at his age, and feels like he's just screwing up left and right all the time, and he's tired, and he thinks that there's something mentally wrong with him. He also says that he's the one who should be gone and Stassi should be back because he's always the one screwing up, which I think he's not wrong about in the grand scheme of things. Like, in terms of who's done the worst to the group and who should be persecuted for it, it's always going to be Jax. And that's where we end the episode. So episode 18 is titled Too Little Too Late, and Sheena and Katie head to serve for payday, where Katie mentions that after the beach they were drinking for a little bit, but she was still really upset about what Ariana had said with the whole, oh, I've been pretending to have a good time with you guys for a while now, and Schwartz had blamed her for it, because of course he did. And she, like, lost it on him, and she admits that she took things way too far. She started rage texting him, and the stuff that she sent him was actually kind of really bad. Like, it was really bad. Now, Lisa shows up and actually, because I don't know, I mentioned it for like 2 seconds last episode, but Kristen and Stassi are going to Palm Spring, and they had invited Katie and Sheena to go along with it, but Katie wasn't really sure how she felt about that. And so then when Lisa shows up this episode, Katie tells her that the plan is to actually surprise Stassi at Palm Springs so that Stassi doesn't have time to prepare like a speech in advance. And so Katie can see like what Stassi's authentic reaction to seeing Katie is, so that she doesn't have time to like manipulate her or anything. I think that's a good plan. It's reassuring to Katie. It also gives her a chance to give Stassi the opportunity to talk to her. We cut to Peter's apartment, which is, I think, the first time we've ever seen it, and Jax and Schwartz are over, and Schwartz tells them all about the nasty rage text that Katie sent him. Again, they're really bad. Apparently, the text literally said things like, I regret getting engaged to you, I'm not gonna marry you, like, I'm never gonna have your kids, I don't want you to get me pregnant ever, like, you suck. They were really bad. But, yeah. Anyways, we see that Peter had been placed as babysitter for his girlfriend's kid, because remember, his girlfriend, I think, has a 4-year-old, and the other two are going to help him. Now, she sets some rules, like, she literally gives them, like, a napkin of, like, 4 rules that they just have to follow, and then they proceed to break all of them. Like, one of the rules was, like, no candy for the child. They give the child candy. They're cussing around him. It's just a whole thing. We cut to Kristen and Stassi arriving at Kristen's friend's house in Palm Spring. Now, Kristen at the house talks about how James was blowing up her phone, and Stassi is just like, dude, just block him. Like, seriously, he's done enough. Like, stop entertaining him. Now, then we see at Sir Lala asking James why he is so insistent on making her and Kristen jealous, because he's done this a bunch. Like, we've seen him try to make Lala jealous multiple times, and then we just saw him try to make Kristen jealous at the beach, and so she's like, you need to be a little bit more grown up, because none of this makes any sense, and you're just kind of being annoying. Then Jax and Sandoval talk about how Sandoval feels like people are doing so much shit talking about him and Ariana, and he feels like Jax is always throwing him under the bus, especially when Sandoval is like always in support of him. And oh my god, the lighting just got so much darker in this room. God damn it. Whatever. You guys are gonna ignore it for me. Please be nice. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Back at Palm Springs, we get the big moment of Sheena and Katie showing up to surprise Stassi. Let me tell you, guys, when I was making this script and I was rewatching the season, I was shaking. I was like, I had so much anxiety going into the scene because I love Stassi and I love her and Katie's friendship, and I just wanted them to get back on good terms. And I was literally like, oh my god, it's happening. They're going to see each other for the first time all season. And they do. And like, nobody knew they were coming to Palm Springs. They knock on the door and they walk in, and Katie and Stassi are in the same room for the first time since their blowout last season. And when I tell you, Stassi immediately bursts into tears. Like, she's literally like, oh my god, like, and just starts crying. It's so sweet because you can tell she's so overwhelmed by this, like she's had this desperation to talk to Katie all season, and she's finally seeing her, and she's like so overwhelmed. And like, talk about authenticity, like that's really all Katie wanted, and that's the reason for the surprise. What's more authentic than this girl bursting into tears? We saw Stassi cry only, actually that's a lie, we saw her cry a lot in the first season, never mind. But like it was so good. It was so good. Now Katie pulls her to talk, like she says hello to everyone, and she's like, come on, let's go talk. And Stassi finally gets the opportunity to really explain herself. She explains why everything went down the way they did on her side. She owns up for making really selfish decisions and apologizes for everything she did to Katie, which Katie's like, oh my God, this girl's actually saying, I'm sorry, what the hell is going on? Are we in the Matrix? Like, what's happening? But Katie actually, even though Stassi's being really emotional, stands her ground. She's like, I wasn't treated fairly. And Stassi admitting she's in the wrong is great, but too little too late. And she has great people in her life, and she really doesn't want to go through that again if she feels like Stassi really hasn't changed. We then quickly cut away to see Schwartz talking to Lisa about his fight with Katie, and Lisa tells him to just listen to what Katie is saying instead of trying to fix everything, because a lot of these issues do come from like Schwartz inadvertently taking the side of the other person, or at least Katie feeling like he's taking the side of the other person because he's trying to fix the situation instead of just listening to his fiance vent about why she's mad. Men, take note. Don't do that. Unless I'm asking you what to do, just let me be pissed off. You are my vessel to absorb the information and let me calm down, okay? And he just doesn't know how to do that. So he should be listening to Lisa. Now we go back to what's actually important, which is Katie and Stassi. And she finally says, okay, I think your apology is sincere, and formally invites her to the engagement party, which she's like, I know Schwartz already did, but I will welcome you if you come. They hug it out, and Katie really reassures. She's like, everything is gonna be okay, because Stassi's in, like, she's sobbing, because she's just so desperate to get back into Katie's life. And I understand, as someone who like has amazing friends in my life, could not be more grateful for them. Love ya if you're watching this, to everyone who I know should be watching this. If any of them, especially my best friend, like if anything were to happen like that between us, like even thinking about that, like, and thinking about, like, I would be just as desperate as Stassi. Like, I completely understand her behavior. I would do anything to get back in that girl's life if I ever lost her. We're not gonna manifest that, though. But, like, she's really, like, so scared, and you can just see it through the screen. So Katie reassuring her is just so sweet. We actually see Sheena in interviews talk about how weird she feels about this whole thing, because when Katie, Kristen, and Stassi were friends, she was never let in, and she's scared that if Katie becomes friends with them again, she doesn't know like where that leaves her. Now the next morning in Palm Springs, Kristen brings up how at the beach Ariana says that Sheena had not been acting like her best friend for a while, and Sheena feels really upset about that. We see this continue on at SUR, where Lisa goes to talk to Ariana about Sheena at the same time. Like, these two conversations are happening at the same time. The scenes are kind of interchanging. And like, Ariana's like, sometimes friendships just fizzle out and they change, and you can still be friends with someone, you just might not be best friends, or you can be best friends, it's just not going to be the same, which I think is fair. But Sheena is really upset about this, and she's crying because she feels like she's lost the only friend that she's had outside of this like girlfriend group, which is now healing itself, and she's scared that she's going to be thrown out. Now, Katie sees Sheena really upset about this and comforts her and says that she's one of her best friends now, and that she was there when everybody left, and that's not going to change. We see Katie and Stassi talk a little bit more about their friendship and say how they're going to take things really slow, but they feel like things are going pretty well, and they leave Palm Springs on good terms, which is great. The last scene we get of this episode is James going to meet with his mom, actually for lunch, and he tells her that he got fired for being drunk at work. Now, James's mom blames Kristen, but James is like, no, it wasn't Kristen's fault. It was my fault. Like, I was the one who was drunk at work. He actually takes accountability in front of his mom. And he does this kind of really icky thing. He compares Kristen and his mom, because apparently his mom is a recovering alcoholic. And it really hurts her. And he's like, yeah, like, you're an alcoholic. Kristen's crazy and always drinks all the time. Like, you guys both have the same temperament. And this really hurts her. But, like, he feels like he's repeating bad patterns. And, like, in part, he's kind of like... It's a whole thing. Like, he's kind of taking accountability, but he's also kind of putting it on everyone else. I don't know. He's just being James. Now, he tells his mom that he's meeting Kristen for lunch, and she's like, why would you do that? You just finished telling me how she is, like, in large part a reason on why you're acting out so much, and, like, why are you going to entertain her? And, yeah, that's basically where we end the episode. So, episode 19 is titled Just the TIP, just the tip. And it starts off with Katie asking Lisa's permission to have the engagement party at her house, like, at Lisa's house, because, okay, Villa Rosa, gorgeous mansion, ponies, view that you would get on like Google stock image view type thing, right? And she's like, I promise, like, not in your house, in like your backyard away from your house. You wouldn't even know, like, you won't even know we're there. Literally, like, that's basically how Katie approaches the whole thing. And Lisa, with some hesitancy, is like, okay, fine, but Kristen and Stassi cannot come. And so Katie's like, oh. Okay, because she's like, oh no, this is like my dream location for an engagement party. It's also like free. And she's not on that good, like, she just got back on good terms with Stassi, and she's like, okay, well, if they can't come, then I guess they can't come. I'm like, sorry, like, what am I gonna do? So we get a funny little cutaway scene of Sandoval and Ariana getting facials, which I love this, okay? I think that boyfriends and girlfriends and like partners and people should go and do beauty stuff together, okay? Men and their freaking refusal to do like manicures, pedicures, facials, like go to the, like, just go take care of yourself. Like, they get massages, but I feel like that's it. Like, the amount of guys who are so desperately in need of facials that I know. My father, I do nose strips on that man, and the gunk that comes out of that, like, no. So thank you, okay? It's not weird. It's not like, oh my god, that's so gay. Shut the fuck up, okay? You're nasty, okay? You have clogged pores that I can see from 2 miles away. Sorry, that was a unnecessary tangent, but it needed to be said. Now, at this facial, the point of the scene is Sandoval talking to Ariana about this new music video he's doing for his band, and he's talking about how it's getting really expensive. Then we quickly cut back to James and Kristen meeting up for dinner. Because remember, James mentioned last episode with his mom that he was gonna go talk to Kristen, try and rekindle things with her, and it goes badly immediately. They, like, start fighting, and Kristen straight up asked James if he slept with Jenna. If you remember, going back to all the way at the beginning of the season, Jenna's Sheena's friend, who I think it was literally like episode 1 or 2, James went home with, it was Ubergate, the whole Uber receipt thing where, like, she didn't go home when she said she went home, but James told her, like, we never actually, like, hooked up. She just stayed longer than necessary, and then said in interviews to us 2 seconds after he said that to Kristen's face that they did, in fact, have sex. Yeah. Kristen asks straight up, did you sleep with Jenna? Or was that last season? Was Jenna Gate last season, guys? Whenever that happened, she asks. And he admits it. And she breaks down crying. She's like, are you kidding me? You, like, fully cheated on me. And they go outside, they start screaming and yelling at each other, and it ends with, like, James being like, I just miss you. And then they hug it out. Like they're friendly with each other. They suck. I hate watching them together, because every time they have an interaction, they go into it, he goes into it being like, oh, I love her. I want to get back together with her. And then it ends with them treating each other so horribly that it's like, what is the point? Now, the next day, Stassi and Kristen go to check out Kristen's t-shirt line at the warehouse, because she has this t-shirt, like, she's printing shirts and stuff, and they talk about her night with James, where she tells Stassi that she made out with him in the car. Now, James, who is with Lala at the same time, admits that they had sex on top of her car. So 2 very different endings to that night. Now, Lala is like, Kristen ruins your life every time. Stop. You're already in trouble with Lisa. You're already in a bad place. Why are you trying to do this with Kristen again? We then go to Katie and Schwartz's apartment, where they're planning the engagement party, and Schwartz is really just being annoying about the entire, like, engagement process and all of the fun things that Katie wants to do because of the budget. I get it. It's expensive, but also it's your fault that you're not like, he's like, oh, we're not a good place to be spending all this money. Yeah, whose fault is that? She's been the only one with a stable job. And I don't say that lightly. I understand people have different situations. I understand money isn't everything when you get engaged and when you want to get into a relationship. But he has had so many chances. His lack of commitment is the only reason that he's stressed about finances. Because he knows that he doesn't have it and he should. But that's not her problem. So she's just going to do what she wants. Now, Katie tells him how neither Kristen or Stassi can come, and Ariana isn't invited because of her weird comments. We then see at Sir Jax tell Lisa that he needs Saturday off because he needs to make a court appearance in Hawaii because of the whole felony thing, you know? Now, all of the gals, except for Ariana, basically, go hang out at this, like, outdoor party. There's, like, turtle racing going on. Like, turtle racing. Like, turtles racing. I don't... And Katie says that Stassi's new personality is refreshing. It's really chill and toned down. Now, Carter actually ends up joining them. And apparently, him and Katie had a one-night stand like a year before she met Schwartz, which is just funny. Schwartz doesn't care. Like, all of the boyfriends are there, too. Schwartz doesn't care. He's just like, yeah, like, you've been in my fiance. Ew. Now, Katie breaks the news to Stassi and Kristen that Lisa won't let them come to the party, and Stassi is sad, but understanding, whereas Kristen is like, oh, hell no. I'm over this grudge against her. No. We then see Brittany and Jax go on a date, and Jax mentions that he really doesn't know how he feels about marriage and this whole thing. It leads to an argument with him and Brittany because she feels like it's heartbreaking and that he's never going to be able to commit to her. Remember, Brittany is from Kentucky and her family is Christian, and we will later find out that her family is like really Christian, like Southern Christian, and family values are really big over there. So it makes sense why she's really upset about the whole marriage comment. We cut to Sandoval filming his music video, and Ariana mentions that the girls really haven't talked to her, like outside of events where they meet up, where basically Sandoval is invited and they all go together because it's just expected that she's going to come with him. They don't really like ever text her or anything. We see Schwartz arrive at Villa Rosa to kind of help set up everything for the engagement party. And the first thing this man does is let two of Lisa's ponies in the house accidentally. And then Lisa literally, like, she comes and she's like, what are you doing? She has to like drag them out. It's a whole thing. But then again, this woman has like ponies at her, like actual ponies, guys. I'm not kidding. Now, Lisa ensures that the party is happening. Like she runs down the details with Schwartz and she's just like, it's happening away from the house, like in your giant backyard. And he's like, yeah, for sure. And she's like, and no Kristen or Stassi, right? And he's like, yeah, no Kristen or Stassi, right? We then cut to, of course, Kristen and Stassi going to look for apartments for Stassi, where they talk about how they are fully planning on crashing the engagement party. So Lisa might be planning on not having them there. However, they are determined. They are like, come hell or high water, we will be at Katie's engagement party. Good luck stopping us. And when I first watched it, I was like, why? You're already on bad terms, especially Stassi. I was like, you just got there. But in hindsight, I think it's funny. Like, I think their lack of shame. It's Kristen. It's always Kristen. That girl does not care if she gets an invite or not, or if she's been told not to go. She will be there. And you know what? It makes for great TV. So the final thing is Jax being really nonchalant about the whole judge thing, because he's getting the verdict for his whole felony thing, because he's been trying to get it down to a demeanor, and he's on his way for the airport, and we end it with him being like, I'm moving too fast with Brittany, I've jumped the gun, this is so stupid, I shouldn't be with her. And that's where we end the episode. Fuck's sake. Okay, so we are on episode 20 called Push Comes to Shove, and it is officially the last episode of the season before the reunions. We're at the finale, guys. We've reached it. And so, okay, it starts off with Jax coming back from Hawaii, and he managed to get his felony charge dropped down to a misdemeanor. However, he gets back into his apartment, and he immediately starts, like, bitching Brittany out and being a dick to her, being like, I need my space, we need a bigger apartment, I feel overwhelmed, la la la, like the whole like man, like I have a woman nagging me and all of a sudden I need to be alone for the rest of my life, like I can't commit to this shit. Ugh. Now we see that Stassi finally managed to get her own apartment, and she says that she feels more herself than ever. She got to decorate it the way she wants to. She's liking this new independence, and she's super happy. We then quickly cut to Sir, where James tells Ariana and Sandoval that he's been hanging out with Kristen, but then in interviews, he says that he still likes Lala. That man is constantly flip-flopping back between these two girls and then making them jealous of each other, and it causes conflict between everyone, and he knows it. He's trying to be messy. Now, Lala was actually invited to the engagement party, and then she goes and we see her talking to Sheena about how she's kind of worried because she's never been good with Katie. And she did hear through the grapevine that Kristen had called her a ratchet whore to James. So she's like, yeah, I don't like that, but at least she's not coming to the engagement party, la la la. Now that party finally arrives, and we see the setup for it in Lisa's backyard. It's beautiful. The background is gorgeous. All of this stuff. Sandoval mentions that they're like at his apartment with Ariana while they're getting ready, that there is an after party at Sir where he's going to be performing his song with his band for the first time in public, the one that he made the music video for. Now, Ariana decided that that night at the after party is where she's going to have the official conversation with Sheena about what the hell has been going on with their friendship, because they really do need to figure that out. Now, at Kristen's place, we see her and Stassi talking about how nervous they are to crash the party, because remember, they are not supposed to be there, but they are determined to go. Now, we get the amazing moment from Stassi. If you have interacted with VPR at all online, I'm sure you've seen this, but it's so good.
I'm just like antsy about Lisa.
Is there a possibility Lisa's gonna be like, you're not allowed here, you're not welcome in my home? I'm aware that that's a possibility,
But that's why I'm scared right now.
I'm usually not welcome in a lot of places.
That would just be very weird.
Welcome to my team.
The only thing that I have holding me back right now is that I have self-respect and dignity. Thank God for Kristen, who is unburdened by those anchors.
Kristen says that she's giving James one last chance and she wants him to turn his life around. I don't know why she's giving that man more chances. I don't know why he's giving her more chances. I don't know why they're trying to do this again, but they are, so whatever. At the party, everyone's family's there. They're having fun. I don't think Schwartz's dad was there because he doesn't fly, and neither were his triplet brothers, but everybody who is there is having a great time. And then we get the moment that we've all been waiting for, which is Stassi and Kristen walking in and crashing the party. Now, when I first was rewatching this, again, I couldn't remember a lot of this season, so I couldn't remember Katie's reaction to them doing this, and I was actually really anxious. I was like, is she going to be really upset that they're doing this, pushing her boundaries, all of this? But she was actually super happy to see them. She was like, oh my God, you guys are here. And she like instantly starts beaming when she sees them. Sheena's like, damn, that took a lot of balls. But Schwartz is like, oh shit. I literally just reassured Lisa that they weren't going to be there, and this puts me in a really tight spot with her. And I'm always team Lisa. So yeah, the girls go and say hi to Lisa, and she's visibly, she's pissed off. But what is she gonna do? Like, it's Katie's day. She's not gonna ruin it for her, so she kind of just lets it be. She lets it be. We see James then go up to Lisa and give her the CD that he was working on for Pump. Even though he was fired as a DJ, he still finished it, and she says that she's proud of him, but he still has to work on himself, and he's not getting rehired anytime soon, right? He then goes over to Kristen and starts flirting with her, and then Lala, who's there, sees this and gets really mad. And then we see her commentary about Kristen.
Everything about Kristen pisses me off. I hate her hair, her outfits are I hate her shoes. I just don't think she's a good person.
Look.
I'm so sorry. I found this really funny. I also don't like Kristen's shoes. I mean, I know you guys know I don't like Kristen in general. But her shoe, I don't like her shoes. I don't like her shoes. And the cameraman was funny. You have to give it to him, okay? Now the toasts start happening. Lisa says some beautiful words about the couple. And then Kristen is like, oh no, I'm going to say some words about this couple because I'm the one who set them up. Fair enough. However, she does start rambling a bit. Her speech does go long. Whatever, it happens. Some people aren't the best at, composing their thoughts in a concise way. But Lala decides to be the most disrespectful person ever and start yelling at Kristen in the middle of her toast, being like, wrap it up, like, shut up, this is taking too long. Literally yelling. And Katie's not having any of it. She's like, what the fuck? She goes up, she stands right next to Kristen, and she's just like, don't be rude. Like, stop doing that. If you have a problem with them being there and saying stuff for me, like, this is my thing. Like, you can leave if you have an issue with it, right? And that's where everything wraps up at Lisa's house. They then go to the after party at Sir, and this is where we see the conversation between Sheena and Ariana. Sheena's actually the one who pulled Ariana for this talk to see what's going on between them. And Ariana says that Sheena's been shit-talking her to everyone and invalidating their feelings. And Sheena starts crying and says that she just wants things to go back to the way they were. They hug it out and end up making up. Moral of the story, communication solves everything. I feel like instead of getting bacon red A's on their asses, the entire cast should get that tattooed on their forehead. Communication solves all. My God. James and Lala start being really gross and PDA-y. Again, he was just flirting with Kristen at Lisa's house. And then Kristen sees this and gets really pissed off. She snaps at Lala and they start screaming at each other. And it ends up getting violent. Lala shoves Kristen. And then Stassi goes in and is like, you need to calm down. Like, it's not going to help everyone if you guys just blow up at each other, and you need to apologize to Kristen. And Lala's like, I don't know who you think I am. Like, this is who I am. If you don't like it and if you don't want to be my friend, then blow me. As somebody who can be very aggressive with her words when I want to be, especially with my friends, like if I'm pissed off at something and I'm talking to my friends, like I get really aggressive. But even if I do say really use big harsh words, I make sense with what sometimes I feel like Lala just thinks that volumes and like cussing and like being really hard will help her win an argument. But if you're not saying anything of substance, then what is it gonna do? I'm neither here nor there with Lala this season. I don't know. I feel like there was no reason for that to escalate. And you know what James is doing. You're smart enough to know what James is doing, and so is Kristen, and they both keep entertaining him, and I hate it. On a lighter note, we see Sandoval perform his song, and it goes really well. And then James, we see him, and he's hanging out with Ken and Lisa, and he says he hasn't been drinking, but that he is really high. And you can tell he's on something because he starts being really rude to Christina. Like, really rude. Jax ends up having to step in and is like, you can't talk to women like that, stop it. And James immediately gets aggressive, and things start getting really heated, and they start yelling at each other, and it's like, oh, what are you gonna do, old man, hit me? That's what James said, obviously. But of course he knows that Jax can't, because Jax is on probation. He can't do anything. James ends up leaving the party and says goodbye to Kristen in like a really like flirty way, but then goes home with Lala. Oh, this man is so annoying. We see things calm down, and Jax goes over to talk to Lisa, and they actually start talking about Stassi, because Stassi's at the engagement party, Jax is at the engagement party. This is the first time they've really been in the same room in like 2 years. And he tells Lisa that he'll always have a soft spot for her, and decides to go over to talk to her. Now, this conversation is kind of tense and very up and down. It starts off really sweet and civil between the two of them. They reminisce on the good old memories they had and how they started this whole friend group. But then things go a little bit south when she brings up the cheating. He gets kind of defensive, she gets kind of defensive, but then they bring it back around, and it's like, listen, I'm happy with Brittany. She seems like a really nice girl. I hope you treat her well, and I hope things go well. And that's where their conversation ends. And the season ends with Katie and Stassi agreeing to hang out more and grow their friendship again on new terms. And Katie says that she's really happy they came. And it's really sweet and a really nice ending to the season. And that is where season 4 ends. Yay! Everybody's happy! Except for James. Fuck James. All right, so we are at the reunion, and we're catching up with everybody a little bit after the season is wrapped. I can't remember when the reunions are filmed, like how long after, a couple months. But yeah, I'm kind of just gonna run through this point by point, just because I really don't want to repeat anything that you guys already know happened in the season, but we're gonna do this as best. As always, it is hosted by Andy Cohen. He's the one asking all the questions. So we start with Andy asking about any status updates with everyone working at SUR, and James says that he's been suspended, again, from Pump for being drunk, naturally. So he still has a problem. He hasn't fixed it. We then see Jax say that because Jax and James had this whole conflict going on all season, and Jax makes it clear that he hates James mostly for his mouth, because he's always just spewing really bad shit to people and he hates it. We then see James talk about the decade party, and in hindsight, watching it back, he admits that his drinking was out of control that night. They then talk about Jenna and the Kristen thing, and Kristen says that she was disgusting watching that, thinking it was funny, lying to her face, and then in interviews admitting that he was cheating on her. Again, I brought this up a lot when I was talking about that. It was nasty. Then everyone starts kind of questioning James's motive with getting with Kristen, being like, you only got with her to get on the show. Now, he's like, that's not true. I really liked Kristen. Like, yeah, I would have gotten on the show either way, because if he wouldn't have moved in with Kristen, he would have moved in with Sandoval, so it would have been like that either way. And he accuses Kristen of cheating multiple times, and I mean, it could be true, but also you cheated on her, so it's like, ugh. Everyone's like, shut up, basically. Andy then talks to Lala a little bit. They question her modeling job in Italy. She brings up the same thing she talked about in the season, how she was just having fun, and she didn't actually sleep with anybody there. She talks about her and Jax thing, and says that it was fun to flirt, and she knew it wasn't for a relationship or anything, but she was told that him and Brittany were not together. Lala feels like she was bullied by the group when she first came in, which I think is true, but it's not something new. Like, we saw the same thing happen with Sheena. We then get to actually talk to Shay. So Shay gets brought out for a little bit to talk about his addiction issues. Everybody says that they were really shocked to find out about everything. But Shay says that he was really grateful to everyone who served as a buffer between them and all their issues, because it was really hard to talk to Sheena about the whole thing, but he really wanted to work it out with her. And he felt like that was the best way to do that. Again, I mentioned how I thought this was a good idea too. Sometimes you really do need a mediator in these types of situations. Jack says he wasn't surprised at all the marriage issues, just because nobody can be super peachy keen all the time. But he does apologize for all the mean comments he said through the season about it. Remember the whole, like, shelf life marriage thing that he said to Lisa. And he also mentioned that he had already apologized to Sheena when that episode first came out prior to the reunion, so they're good. Now, in terms of how Sheena handled Shay's addiction, she got a lot of backlash for this, including for me. Okay, I was the one saying, like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop it. Like, she literally she was like, oh, Shay would be a bore if he was sober. And she explains that she wishes she was more educated on addiction when the season first came out, but she had no experience with it in the past, which is why she had said and behaved the way she did towards Shay. You guys gotta remember that this season was filmed not like in like early 2000s. Things weren't the same. Do I think she handled the situation well? No. Do I think if you find out that your husband has an addiction, you should be educating yourself on addiction? Yes. I will give her a little bit of grace, but still, I mean, I'm giving her grace because she got shit on for that from the public. So she really did have to explain herself. Now, she says that the reason she was still drinking with him is because Shay was so adamant that he wasn't an alcoholic. Again, she was not aware of how addiction works at that point. Like, when the season was airing, she didn't know that they're liars. Like, the addicts will lie to you. So she was just taking him at his word. She trusted him as her husband. And he was saying that he just needed to cut back, and Sheena was just trying to navigate that. She says that she's taken everything they've been through and all the backlash on the show to better herself and educate herself more, and that she's really proud with where Shay has gone. Shay defends her and is like, no matter how she handled it, her intentions were good, and I would not be, because he's sober right now, thank God, but he's like, I would not be sober and I would not have gotten to the place where I'm at without her, so I'm super grateful and people need to give her a break. He says that. I'm going to agree with him just because he's the one going through all of this, so yeah, she kind of explains more about that. They talk about Sandoval being a dick and bailing on Ariana for her birthday. She says she wanted to explain the whole missing her father thing, to be honest with how she was feeling, and she didn't want it to come across like she was acting like a weird protective girlfriend for no reason. I don't think she would have ever come across like that. These boys are notorious for cheating. Like, I wouldn't want my boyfriend to go there anyways. Then again, I wouldn't be with someone who was notorious for cheating, but that's neither there nor here nor there, whatever. As for Kristen apologizing to Ariana and trying to own up to her mistakes, Ariana still thinks her apology was BS and that she was just trying to get in on the trip. And says that she's fine with being in group settings with Kristen. Like, she's not going to be hostile to her, but she still doesn't like her, and she never will. Sandoval says he's at peace with Kristen. Basically the same thing Ariana says. Like, I'll be civil with her in a group setting, but I don't, like, she's like, oh, I'm at peace. Like, I don't think about her, which everyone calls bullshit on. But Sandoval also points out the fact that she has screwed over all of his friends, and he thinks it's gonna happen again, so he can never trust her. So yeah, they start talking about the disaster that was the Pride party and how Lala just felt disrespected because she had just had this conversation with James about how she didn't want to know who he was sleeping with, and then he decides to show up with scratches all over himself, and then he almost gets beaten up by Lauren's boyfriend, which serves him right, you know. They talk about the proposal, and Katie says she loved it and that it was very Schwartz. And then Brittany comes out. Andy brings Brittany out, and they ask why she felt so confident moving in with Jax after she had heard all about his reputation. And she says that, like, he's always been good to me, and I trust him, and we're happy, and that's all that matters. Now, they do clarify the whole Jax pressuring Brittany to get giant tits. Brittany says, no, the reason I actually went bigger than originally planned was because my mom called me and I wanted big tits since like middle school, and her mom was like, go big or go home, so she's the reason why she went bigger, so it wasn't Jackson. Everybody can calm down. They then move on to talking about Ariana and Sheena. Now, Ariana says they're never not going to be friends. Relationships ebb and flow sometimes, so you just got to navigate that. Katie says, because Andy asked about Katie and the whole hostile thing that her and Ariana had going on this whole season, and she says that she was as hard on Ariana as she was because she felt like she was being negative all the time, but Ariana just feels like everything she says gets turned against her and it's super toxic. Sandoval also feels like his feelings get shoved away a lot, and he specifically brings up Hawaii and how it was supposed to be a joint birthday trip, but everybody wanted to bring Kristen even though he didn't want her there, to which I agree. Like, what? They talk about the whole textgate with Sheena and Ariana's mom. Apparently, Ariana's mom wasn't actually reaching out because of Sandoval. She was reaching out because of like Christmas or something. And Sheena just started kind of talking. Sheena still stands by saying that she was valid in what she said, but she shouldn't have said it to her mom. Everyone's like, your apology isn't sincere. Shut the fuck up. Andy asked about the whole sunglasses gate with Jax. Brittany said she had no idea Jax had a criminal history before then. And Lisa said she didn't fire Jax because it would have been kicking a dog while he's down. And he also didn't do anything in the restaurant, so she felt like that wouldn't have been fair. I think it would have been fair. He's representing the restaurant. Like, everybody knows he's associated with Sir, so, like, it still looks bad. So the whole fight with Brittany and Jax and like the marriage thing, Jax says that he had seen marriage the same way Ariana had, but then after having a conversation with Brittany and her family, he realizes that people see it different ways and he would be open now to maybe getting married to Brittany in the future. We then see Stassi join the reunion, and she mentioned that she got a boob job, or a boob reduction and a lift, which good for her. And then she does something that I love. She immediately goes in on James and calls him out for the way he talks to women. And then she acknowledges her own faults and says that she did a lot of harm, but she felt like she really did need to hit rock bottom with this group to then build all the relationships up from scratch. Jax does mention that even though he's on good terms with Stassi, he feels like the move to go to Kristen first was tactical, and Sandoval also didn't like the timing of her becoming friends with Kristen. He says that when the fight happened between Stassi and Katie, he became really close to Katie and really protective of her, so he didn't like the idea of Stassi maybe getting back into Katie's life and manipulating her again. Lisa is still adamant on not liking Stassi, and she says that she feels like if the show wasn't there, none of them would have ever heard from Stassi again. And Andy asks, like, Stassi, do you think like you owe Lisa anything? And Stassi says, I think I owe her respect, and she's grateful for her time at SUR, but she feels like Lisa holds things over her head all the time. Lisa hits back and is like, I gave you a chance and opportunity to apologize to me, and then you did, but then the second cameras were back on you in interviews, you were trashing me and calling me an old lady again. Now, they talk and start talking about the whole, like, sex tape thing and Lisa paying off Stassi's ex for her. And Stassi says, like, thank you for being willing to help me, but you didn't even talk to me. Like, you did that behind my back. And then you weren't even smart enough to get him to sign anything to agree never to release the tape. He still has the tape. Now he has your money. I have no reassurance, and you're still holding this over my head. I'm Team Stassi for this. Lisa's a smart woman. She has lawyers. She could have talked to them about this, and she just didn't do that. They talk about Stassi texting Schwartz and meeting up with him before she tried to get in with Katie, and she says that she did this because she was friends with Schwartz for so long, and she also figured, like, if anyone's going to give me the benefit of the doubt, it is going to be Schwartz. And then people give Schwartz a lot of props for the way he stood up for Katie and really went in on Stassi. Sandoval says that the tears that she cried when she was having dinner with Schwartz were crocodile tears, but Stassi's like, dude, I literally can't win with you guys. Like, if I own up to what I did, I'm wrong. If I don't, then I'm wrong. Like, give me a break. Andy asked about Sheena and Stassi's relationship. Sheena says that they were able to make up at Lala's housewarming party, but then the second filming wrapped, she just didn't really hear from Stassi as much. Stassi does explain this and says, I wasn't trying to give Sheena the cold shoulder at all. I'm just starting to now learn that sometimes different friends have different needs, because a lot of my friends don't need me to text them that often, but Sheena is someone who does. I experience this in my own life. I suck at responding to people. Me and my best friend will literally go 2 weeks without texting each other at all. We'll see each other because we're both so busy. We'll see each other like a month apart and everything will be the same. Whereas I have other friends who I do need to respond to more often, so Stassi's kind of trying to figure that out for herself. Now, Andy asked about the whole Ariana comment about Kristen's comedy and her friend. Ariana stands by what she said and then continues to kind of be rude about it and says that, like, it sucks that so many comics try to be seen, but then someone who's not original in their work gets mentioned on national television. Like, it's not fair. And everyone, rightly so, calls Ariana out for being a hater for no reason. And then Ariana's like, see, everything I say gets turned against me. But then Katie's like, no, girl, you're just being mean and people are calling you out for being mean. Like, that's not turning your words against you. That's calling your words out for what they are. To which I actually agree. Like, she was being mean in this situation. Finally, the only other relevant thing they really talk about is the engagement party. Andy asks how Lisa, handled the whole Stassi and Kristen crashing, and she says that she didn't want any issues for Katie, so she just let it be, which is what I figured she did. And then with the whole Lala telling them to wrap it up thing, she was drunk, but Katie's still upset about it because it was just rude, and Lala was aware that she was just invited as a courtesy. Like, why are you being rude if, like, you should be on your best behavior? And in terms of the after party, Jax again says that he does not like James because of his attitude, his immaturity, and the way he talks to women. James then hits back and is like, you're just jealous of me. And everyone's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Jealous for what? You've been fired from every job you have. You have no girlfriend. Everybody on TV hates you, and you kind of just suck. So yeah, the last thing we get from the reunion, which I love, is Jax and Stassi. Andy asks what's going on with them, and he says he really just wanted her back in the group. Like, enough time had passed that they've both changed, and like he really acknowledges the fact that, like, if I can be forgiven, so can she. And she says that she really likes Brittany and feels like he needs someone who's really kind and hopes they work out. And that is the end of season 4.
Hey guys. So this is me in editing. I was literally 2 seconds away from finishing this video. And then I accidentally deleted the outro while trying to clear up storage to download it. So professional of me, I know. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's been a journey. But yeah, if you want to see any more content from me or different kinds of content from me, again, I'm a history major. I study politics. I am a huge reader. I am currently finishing the Tom and Boys series, actually. I also read the new Hunger Games book, which tells you how much later this video came out than I planned it to. Oops. But I am more than willing to talk about any of that with you guys. If you guys have any requests for anything else you want to see, let me know in my comments down below. I'd be more than happy to explore that. Any short form content videos, I'm also more than happy to look at. And yeah, next up we have season 5. That one's going to be a really fun one, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe. Turn on your little bell notifications, and hopefully I will see you guys very soon. Thanks for sticking around with my fun little commentary. But yeah, have a wonderful day, and I hope you guys enjoyed.